The idiot Lord marries 5 beautiful goddesses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, The Age of War. There were times when a single person ruled an entire era. The person whose name was enough to make enemies cower in fear. It is a legendary story about an emperor who established his empire. Age of Wars began with the Kinley Empire, achieving its conquest by unifying the territories of the humans and ruling the entire human faction as an overlord. But greed knows no bounds. Its thirst did not end with the control of the humans. It wanted the title of God. It wanted to challenge God and have the strength to make God kneel before it and rule over them. Its conquest had destroyed the long interval of peace and prosperity. The Emperor of Kinley declared himself the Holy Emperor and achieved strength that rivaled that of God. And he achieved the seemingly impossible feat, an emperor whose status was equal to that of God. The church knelt before him. The devil feared him. Elves, orcs, dwarves and even dragons were easily defeated by him. Their tales of debauchery and cruelty spread far and wide, but their days of pleasure did not last long. The gods could not descend upon mortal plans to end their tyranny, but that does not mean they could not interfere. A revolt occurred that shook the heavens and caused the world to crumble in fear. A vassal state rose in power to answer the call of heaven, to shake the legend with the power to rival the Holy Emperor, the one who was hailed as the God King blessed by the god and goddess. The being who was born to destroy the enemy of the gods, the Emperor of Kinley. Since the gods could not enter the fight alone and destroy the arrogant emperor, they did so by blessing the stigma, and a child was born carrying the god of blood who was later hailed as the God King. The man stood up to the Holy Emperor, gathered allies who had been cast aside, enslaved, and discarded. He gathered all those who wanted to challenge the Holy Emperor and waged war. Finally, after 20 years of bitterness, he overthrew the Holy Emperor and crowned himself as the new Emperor of Kinley. Many countries that wanted to achieve independence were liberated. The God King, who maintained a tight balance between all kingdoms and between all races, the peace he brought was eventually broken after his death. Many vassals became independent and formed a country of their own. The church rose to power, gathering enormous support from the masses. As devotees increased in number, it declared itself an independent organization whose powers rivaled that of a kingdom. Greedy demons began to expand their territories and waged war after war. The power of the Kinley Empire waned as protests followed one another, but no one could trample on it due to its rich history and wealth of natural and military resources. After all, the descendant carried the blood of the gods. After 100 years of history, the current Emperor Karl von Stan succeeded the presiding emperor and rose to the rank of Overlord Knight and was able to bring Kinley back to its former glory. He has 9 children, 5 boys and 4 girls. Of all the children, the youngest turned out to be an imbecile. Upon giving birth, due to complications, his mind became vegetative and his mother died. He had hoped that the youngest prince's mind would return to normal and he would recover, but his hope and prayers to the goddess were in vain, and the older he grew, the more of an idiot he became. Moreover, if this were not enough, it was later confirmed that he did not have the blood of the gods that all the descendants of the emperor carry. With his idiocy, he grew fat as a pig. He was the shame of his entire royal family, a disgrace. Sometimes, even the emperor himself is disgusted by looking at his son. He was so dissatisfied with his offspring that he wanted to strangle his idiotic son. How can a royal family raise a useless man like him? That was why he decided to remove him from the family tree, gave him an independent title, and banished him to a small rural country. The emperor didn't want to see a flower grow in the garden of thorns and banished him to a small vassal state after conquering it. The royal family of the vassal state had no heir, and he made them adopt his useless son. A few years after his son was adopted, the king and queen of the vassal state both died and matters became quite chaotic as his idiot son was in no position to take power. Still, as he was a father, he couldn't let useless things go to ruin, so he used him as a tool to curb many of the empire's future threats. In the neighboring kingdoms where his son was banished, their king died and the daughter was crowned empress as there was no male offspring. The empress was very resourceful and cunning and was increasing the powers of her kingdom. The emperor sent a small force and conquered it and merged the kingdom with the one that his idiot son was going to rule. Since his son was an idiot, he decided to marry him as a princess and end the empress' influence. After that, a war broke out with the church and both sides formed a truce to prevent mutual destruction, But the emperor didn't want to let it end like this. He used his connection and forced the saint of the church to be engaged to his son as a second wife to humiliate her. Considering the richest merchant to be an eyesore, he decided to teach them a lesson and force them to marry their daughter to his idiot son or be prepared to be destroyed. He put forward a marriage proposal to the richest merchant in the empire, the Lockharts, and his daughter was betrothed as the third fiancée of the fifth prince. The knight Julian, also known as the goddess of war on the battlefield, became the fourth finance by order of the emperor. His imbecile son's fifth fiancée was raised from a child to take care of him and married him. Just like these, the foolish lord was blessed like 5 beautiful goddesses and subject to the envy and jealousy of all men. All of them were forced to swear and pledge in the marriage contract that no matter what, they could not break the engagement or harm their idiot husband. It did not matter if they took care of him or left him alone, but they could not break the contract in any way, and breaking it would ensure them a fate worse than death. Even death would be a mercy if they went back on their words. No one knew why the emperor was forced to marry all the beautiful flowers with cow dung, and he only thought that he wanted to humiliate the opposition forces, where they took this as an opportunity to search and gather information. After that, the king never interfered or saw his son again and permanently severed his connection with him and was even stripped of the title of Stan. In this way, they started living their life in the vassal state of Nevin, whose condition was worse compared to any other small state. The nobles were corrupted, the merchants were after their profits, and poverty was at its highest. The nation was truly in ruins. The emperor didn't care and no one extended a hand to him. Using the idiot prince as a puppet, the nobles squeezed out all the wealth. Even the empress, who was known for her wisdom, wasn't able to do anything. The ruined nation was seen as an opportunity to gather more wealth for the neighboring countries. When they noticed that the prince was abandoned, they looked for an opportunity to conquer him and bring him into their kingdom. While the country was on the verge of ruin and its future was overshadowed by clouds of darkness, finally the day came when the piercing rays of the sun dispelled the darkness as the idiot prince, who had been in a coma for 6 months, finally opened his eyes. If you like this, don't forget to add it to your library and vote with PS. Chapter 2, The Stupid Kingpig. 2 men covering their faces and holding daggers jumped out of the window and entered a large, spacious room decorated with luxurious things. The walls were decorated with gold, paintings from the ancient era hung on the walls, and on a large jade bed lay a sleeping figure. His body looked like a dry twig, and he had sunken cheeks and large dark circles under his eyes. His skin was already pale, drained of blood. Even his collarbones were visible and his ribs could be counted. The boy on the bed was barely clinging to his life. Tisk. This moron is already dying. Why do we have to waste time killing him? One of them said. Because it's easy money, moron. It doesn't matter if he's a moron or not, he's got royal blood running through his veins, another man spoke up. King, my ass. Have you seen the situation in the castle? I could barely find a strong guard. What a piece of shit the emperor has spawned. Let's not waste any more time, he said, pulling out his dagger to kill the boy. As he took a few steps, he frowned as he got no response from his companion and turned to look, only to find that there was no one behind him. Where have you gone? Stop playing hide and seek, he muttered slowly, asking his companion to stop playing pranks on him. But before he could utter any more words, he heard a woman's weak voice that sent a chill down his spine. Oh. So you're here from my lord. I've been quite bored lately, she said as she placed a dagger at the man's throat. The man's back was drenched in sweat as he watched the woman appear out of nowhere. He knew he was no match for her. Please forgive me. I can tell you something about the client who sent me, he said in a pleading tone. There's no need. You can take the information to hell with you. By the way, please repent there. This was the last thing the man heard before his vision went black. Huh. This has already happened for the 4th time. Can't the royals please stop trying to kill him? The lord is already a moron and is now in a coma. How can his life pose a threat to them? Those bastards just wanted to get their hands on the lord's wife. I wish I could tear them apart, but if I do, my lord's life will be in danger. Oh. Lord, when will you wake up? I wish I could see the day when the Lord not only shows the world his worth and power, but also leads the kingdom into a prosperous era. The woman who was muttering her complaints turned around and was dumbfounded. Her jaw dropped as she turned around and saw the lifeless lord who had been unconscious for months sitting up and staring at her. Raya, it's been a while, the boy said as he tried to put the best smile he could on his face despite his pitiful condition. Her body looked like a dry twig devoid of energy. Even smiling was too taxing on her facial muscles. The girl looked at the boy and suddenly burst into tears because finally her prayer for the Lord's safety was answered. She removed her veil and her figure transformed into an extremely seductive lady with a body full of curves. She ran towards the boy as her big black and gentle eyes filled with love met the boy's lifeless gaze that could even melt a man's heart, made of stone. 6 months ago. On this date, a grand ceremony was held when many years ago the kingdom was founded. On the stage, many people were sitting on chairs made of gold while chewing on food. In front of them, many girls were dancing and entertaining the nobles on the occasion of the festive occasion, and they were throwing playful smiles enough to bewitch any man. The higher authority were the nobles who gathered here to celebrate, and the money for this grand ceremony was drawn from the kingdom's treasury. While the nobles were enjoying themselves and throwing away their money, the commoners gathered there were staring at the nobles in hopes of getting the leftover food that they threw away. In the middle of the stage, surrounded by many nobles, sat a huge chubby 19-year-old boy who was eating pig trotters. His hand was stained with oil and his hair was messy. Pearl's blonde hair along with his red eyes made him look like a disgusting pig. Anyone who looked in his direction felt like vomiting. The nobles always felt like slapping this pig, but they knew they couldn't do that because he was going to be king soon and he was their golden duck. Blur. The boy patted his huge round stomach giving a satisfied expression, then looked at the girls. He pulled the man sitting next to him and asked, "Why are you guys dancing like that and what's the occasion today? This looks very colorful." The body asked curiously as he didn't even know what he was doing there. "Your Majesty, today everyone is celebrating the founding of the kingdom. Everyone is here to catch a glimpse of their great king, whose tales of bravery have spread far and wide," the man standing beside him said. The man was the kingdom's finance minister, but instead of improving the kingdom's income, he was bent on improving its wealth. "Oh, great, great," said the chubby boy. Seeing that the king was happy, the man said, "By the way, Your Majesty, don't you think there's a lack of ceremony, lack of—" How? Yes, now that you've said there's not enough food," the fat boy said, rubbing his chin as the fat on his body rippled. "I think Your Majesty should spend more money. Please allow this humble servant to make the ceremony grander so that it can benefit your stature. If we don't spend enough, everyone will think that the king is a miser and is just saving money." "What? How can it be? Take all the money you want, make it bigger. Spend it all. There's no need to save, you have my full support," the fat boy spoke as he went back to eating the snacks. The man smiled as he flashed a wolfish grin and looked at the others, pointing out that their plan had succeeded in shelling out this little pig's money. Just as they were about to celebrate their success, thick dark clouds appeared in the sky covering it. The sky completely darkened and loud thunder could be heard. People began to disperse as a huge storm appeared and high-speed wind began to blow from all directions, followed by showers of lightning. But no one paid any attention to the pig king, who failed to grasp the crux of the matter and thought they were playing a game. The people on the stage began to run, and the guards who were in charge of protection moved towards the king to protect him when they saw that the idiot was busy eating even in this situation, but before they could reach him, they were all caught. A massive beam of light flashed and illuminated the entire area, obscuring everyone's vision with a sudden flash of light. When the brightness subsided, everyone's eyes widened in horror as they found a charred black figure staring at them with its mouth agape. The beam had struck the king directly. "No!" Everyone screamed in panic as blood-curdling, shrill screams of people echoed throughout the area. Chapter 3, Sacrifice of the 5 Goddesses, Duty of Wives. In a huge room were present 5 beautiful ladies whose beauty was comparable to that of a goddess. They have gathered due to the terrible incident that happened a few days ago. On the bed lay a charred black body, covered with a blanket. 2 beautiful ladies were sitting beside the charred boy and were looking at the boy's body lying there with moistened eyes. One of them had white hair with ruby eyes, and she looked at the boy in front of her and rubbed his forehead. The boy who was going to be crowned king in a few months was lying in a pathetic state. The lightning had burned his hair and he had gone bald. His skin was charred and burned brutally by the lightning strike, and if it weren't for the potions, the boy would have already died. Caressing the boy's face, she recalled the memories of the time she had spent with him. Although it was short, it was quite nice. The boy's mind may have been damaged, but he had a rather gentle and innocent heart, like little children, much to her liking. "Is he still alive?" said the red-haired woman. "Yes, he's still clinging to his life. He's quite tenacious." The white-haired woman smiled softly as she pinched the boy's cheeks. Tisk. If you were to die, we'd all be free from this horrible nightmare, the red-haired woman spoke, clicking her tongue. The entire atmosphere turned cold as three murderous intents focused on her. Why are you staring at me like that? Don't tell me you seriously thought this disgusting pig was your husband. Does he even have the qualities a man should have? The red-haired woman shouted in an annoyed tone. Beside her were a lady with light brown hair and a lady with blonde hair who were staring at her with a chilling gaze, but their killing intent was incomparable compared to the piercing gaze of the black-haired lady who was sitting beside the boy who was staring at the red-haired lady like a prey that is about to be killed by her. If you say one more word, speaking ill of my lord, I will make sure that your head is hung in the Lockhart Merchant Group's fort for the whole world to see, the black-haired woman spoke in a deep voice. Enough. A huge voice resounded as the red-brown-haired lady who seemed to be the leader among the group of 5 ladies shouted. Don't you understand the situation? If he dies, the kingdom will be in chaos, we will not receive any help from the empire, and a war of succession will break out. If those greedy bastard nobles win the war, the kingdom that is already on the path of destruction will be on the path of extinction, she said. And we will all become others' playthings and be their slaves. We are all bound to him by contract and married to him. Even if he dies, we will never be able to return to our previous lives, she said as she stood up from her seat. Besides, if he does, we will all die with him. Do you think the Emperor of Kinley will spare our lives? He will either kill us or to make us slaves, she spoke and began walking towards the bed. Standing in front of the bed, she looked down at the boy who was in an unconscious state. She was the queen of a small kingdom that was located on the west side of Nevin. Her name was Catherine and everyone refers to her as Catherine Wiseman for her wisdom. She had brought her nation out of debt and destruction to where it is today, but only to meet its end at the hands of the empire. Still, they did not kill her and gave her a chance to live if she married this imbecile. Rather than marrying a person who treats her like a tool, it was better to marry this prince who is immersed in his own life and does not interfere in her way. She looked around the room and said, "Is there no way to save him?" Hearing his question, the white-haired woman said, "Potions don't work and can only sustain his life, but cannot prolong the inevitable." Hearing the question, the atmosphere became gloomy. No matter what kind of person the boy was, he was her husband and how could they watch him die like this? Although he was a fool, he was better than the greedy people who covet their bodies. The white-haired woman closed her eyes and thought about many things and finally said, "Perhaps there is a way to save him." Everyone present looked at her with their ears perked. "There is a ritual I have seen in the temple. If we follow it and all sacrifice a portion of our lifespan, we can rescue him from death," she said. "Is that even possible?" the black-haired woman said. "We have to sacrifice our lifespan for him." "Are you kidding me?" the red-haired woman exclaimed in an annoyed tone. "We all have 100 years of lifespan, and as our rank increases, we can increase our lifespan. We don't need to give up much of our lifespan. We only need to sacrifice a portion of our lifespan, so we can cure him after he wakes up, and we can also use other means to maintain his situation after he is saved." She paused for a moment, biting her lips and said, "The only problem is that it will be very painful. Wow, now we have to suffer because of him." "Great," the red-haired woman spoke angrily, but her eyes held a hint of fear. "Are we going to do this?" the red-haired woman said in a trembling voice. "We have to. As his wives, we must do everything we can to protect our husband. Also, let's not forget that our lives are connected to him," the auburn-haired woman said. All right, let's get over it quickly," the red-haired woman said in annoyance. The red-haired lady looked at the blonde lady who was always silent. Seeing that she didn't say anything, she shrugged her shoulders. The white-haired woman nodded and asked everyone to form a circle by joining their hands. As the 5 beautiful ladies whose combined beauty can topple the world and just one look from them can steal your heart, stood holding hands, forming a circle. The white-haired one began the ritual and chanted spells. Her hair fluttered and her body was covered in an unearthly glow that made her look like a fairy that descended from the sky. The air around them fluctuated and rippled as their bodies glowed with varying colors of light depending on the color of their hair. A small orb of light shot out from their bodies and converged into a ball that glowed brightly. The women felt a heart-wrenching pain that was too much for them to bear, and they gritted their teeth to endure that unimaginable pain. "Don't you dare die, you moron, even after my sacrifice, otherwise I will haunt you even after I die," the red-haired lady muttered to herself as she tried to hold back the heart-wrenching pain. The orb grew larger and glowed brightly and flew into the white-haired lady's hands. The white-haired lady held the orb closer to her heart, as if the orb was something sacred and very precious to her. She took it and enchanted a few words. The orb flew and floated around the charred chubby king and, hovering for a moment, entered him. A pillar of light descended upon the boy, and the charred body began to change at a visible rate. Hair began to grow on his bald head. His skin began to regain its original smoothness and luster, and he eventually regained his human form, and his breathing, which had slowed down, began to quicken. "Why won't he wake up?" the black-haired woman asked. "It will take time. We have just nourished his soul that was on the verge of collapse. He will slowly recover, though it may take a few days or a few years." The white-haired woman spoke and looked at the sleeping boy with an innocent and tender expression. Chapter 4, Meeting with the Goddess. In a place filled with nothingness, where the flow of time seemed to not exist, and everything was filled with darkness. The place seemed to stretch into infinity and there was not a single ray of light. A body was floating in the darkness, flowing through the endless void. The person floating in the sea of nothingness suddenly opened his eyes and rubbed his eyes as he thought he had gone blind, but even after rubbing his eyes for a while, he couldn't see anything. He tried to move his hands and feet but couldn't do anything. Unable to understand what was going on and where he was, he screamed and cursed, "What the fuck is going on?" He looked around but couldn't find anything. He felt like he was in the void where no physical substance existed, enshrining him to his core. "Where am I? Have I died? Wait, who am I? My name is... My name..." He tried to remember his name but he wasn't able to remember who he was either. His memories were blank, as if he had appeared out of nowhere. As he tried to rack his brain, he was suddenly struck by an unbearable pain. He screamed as several memories from the past and present intertwined with each other, and he screamed at the top of his lungs as he felt like his brain was about to explode. "Arg, who am I? Alex or George?" the boy questioned himself as he felt like he had lived two lives and had memories of two different lives. According to his memories, in his first life, he was just a normal boy who fell in love with a girl and settled down with her, but the girl he loved the most died suffering from cancer. After her death, he was so heartbroken and depressed that he had turned to alcohol to forget his pain, and most of the time he was lying here and there like a lifeless puppet and had developed a trauma of losing everyone around him that haunted him and became his nightmare. But he was finally freed from this torture as he met with an accident which granted him eternal peace, but that was what he thought. And it was all far from over as his soul was dragged back into the cycle of reincarnation. Memories of his second life began to resurface in his mind slowly. While in the second life he was born with a silver spoon, the youngest son of the strongest emperor, he was unable to enjoy his status. The prince could have enjoyed all the wealth in the world, but upon giving birth to him, his mother died due to some complications, and he turned out to be an idiot with a mentally damaged brain. After a decade of ostracism and humiliation, he was cast out and banished to a small kingdom. Even after the banishment, he was not left alone, as his father used him as a tool to humiliate his enemies by marrying his precious daughter to a fat jerk like him. He remembered that he was married to 5 women who were as beautiful as a goddess. An empress, a goddess of war, Valkyrie, the saint, the goddess of wealth, and the queen of shadows. These were familiar names that his wives were known by in their second life, but fate was wicked. He didn't get a chance to enjoy their sweetness and was only a pawn to his father. Even after being banished as he was an idiot, he was just a dancing puppet that the nobles used to loot all the money, and finally, he remembered his death after being struck by lightning. "For God's sake. What bad luck I have. In one life I didn't have everything and died pathetically, while in another I had everything but still died after being struck by lightning. Of all the people present there, I was the unluckiest to be struck by lightning. Damn it. Fuck you. Fuck you. Even after I die, I can't have a moment of peace and be dragged to this damn place. For God's sake, where the hell am I? What is this place?" He cursed his fill. As he lamented about his life, many dazzling rays of light shone upon him, and the darkness surrounding him suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed in the first place. The sudden influx of light nearly blinded him. After rubbing his eyes, he saw a throne in front of him, and on it, a beautiful lady sat staring at him. His heart began to beat faster, and his mind became a mess as she stared at his beauty. The lady stood up and projected another light onto him, and his mind returned to normal. "Although you are affected by my charm, it is still surprising that you were able to stop your desire from running wild," the lady said, giving a seductive smile. "Who are you?" the boy asked with a fearful expression. "I am the goddess Rebecca," the lady replied. The boy's pupil shrank and no words came out of his mouth. "Goddess Rebecca, one of the sacred goddesses revered by the people. Please don't joke with me. What a joke, he muttered as he thought that this was all just an illusion he was having after he died. It's not an illusion and you're not dead, the goddess said. What? How? He exclaimed in surprise. It's because my daughter sacrificed her life to save yours. The boy heard another voice, but unlike the seductive voice, it was filled with resentment. Tisk. Just because of an idiot, my precious daughter sacrificed a part of her life? Tisk, he said. Silence. Even my precious daughter sacrificed a part for this idiot, a good-for-nothing guy, who can't even change his clothes. The boy heard another voice. What else can a pig do except take advantage of others? Another lady said. The boy, floating in the darkness, felt as if the world was spinning. He heard the voices of several people at the same time. Moreover, each voice was so mesmerizing and alluring that it sounded like a melodious song in his ears. What the hell is going on? Why are they cursing me for no reason? Oh God, what is this? The boy was on the verge of crying tears of blood, but nothing was coming out of his eyes. He had just woken up after dying, only to find himself in this cursed darkness where he heard the voices of many women along with the goddess Rebecca, who was cursing for an unknown reason. Wait? Is this some kind of mental demon? The boy muttered as small memories flashed through his mind about the cultivation novel where the protagonist develops mental demons. If it wasn't for him facing something that was beyond his understanding, he would have shown his middle finger and said, "Fuck you." Before he could see, there was only the goddess Rebecca sitting on a huge throne in front of him, and everything around him was filled with darkness. But suddenly everything lit up as he saw. He was in a huge room where there were 5 huge thrones, and sitting on them were 5 beautiful ladies, so beautiful that he found it difficult to take his eyes off of them. As the boy looked at it, he felt as if he was losing his mind from the beautiful austerity. They radiated as if they were all holy angels or goddesses of beauty. Although he couldn't see their faces completely, their aura was enough to show their mesmerizing figure. "Reduce your charm," a voice echoed in the room, awakening the boy from his stupor, and he looked towards the source of the sound to see a lady or goddess sitting on a huge throne, seductively bending her legs. Her throne was larger than the 5 thrones in front of the boy. On top of her head was a golden crown that was shining with golden light. He looked at the boy and said, "Alex, your arrival in this place is just a coincidence, and luck played a huge role in it. Since you were able to get a second chance, it's time for you to pay back those you owe." Gulp. The boy gulped upon hearing his words. Chapter 5, The Shrine of the Goddess. Suddenly, Alex felt a gentle pat on his head. It felt like the tender love of a mother stroking her son's hair. He felt a warm, comforting sensation wash over him from within, soothing him. He felt as if all his worries and pain had disappeared, leaving behind a sense of calm and peace. "My son, are you okay now?" Alex nodded unconsciously, as if a mother had calmed her son but woke up from her stupor and found herself in the embrace of the lady sitting on the throne. He heard several clicks of tongues and disgruntled voices. He didn't need to look at the source to know where the voices were coming from. Alex wanted to say something, but his voice faltered. Before Alex could utter any words, the lady put her finger on his lips and murmured, "Be patient, you will know all the answers to your questions." The lady looked at Rebecca as she lovingly stroked Alex's hair. Rebecca looked at the goddess queen and sighed and began to explain, "Alex, I hope you can at least remember that you almost died after being struck by lightning." Alex nodded. "That's good. Now let me summarize what happened next," Rebecca said. "You were at death's door, but my daughter saved your life at the last moment through a forbidden ritual," Rebecca said. Alex's eyebrows furrowed when he heard the term daughter, and he asked curiously, "Your daughter? Wait, do you mean the goddess has a daughter?" Rebecca nodded and said, "In fact, all of us goddesses have a daughter. It doesn't mean that we're giving birth to a daughter. It means that girls are born carrying our legacy and some of our strengths, and we call them our daughters." Alex squinted his eyes and thought that he was finding a lot of interesting things, but at the same time he was also tense, thinking that the information he was receiving today might overload his brain. "You don't have to look at us like that. You know our daughter very well. After all, you are our daughter's husband." Rebecca's words rang like thunder in Alex's ears, and he was so shocked that he felt his jaw drop to the floor and felt the world spinning. Oh God! What kind of shitty world is this? This moron was married to 5 daughters of a goddess, no, actually 5 goddesses, but he didn't even get to enjoy his life. Alex felt like crying and his expression turned ugly. "So, that's the reason I was cursed out of the blue. After all, what mother can tolerate a son-in-law like him? Even I would be pissed if my daughter was forced to marry such an idiot." Even Alex was disgusted with himself for the way he lived and behaved in his second life. If it weren't for the memories of his life resurfacing and the luck of coming here, he would have led a worthless life. Although he remembers that his wives were forced to marry him, but still, marriage is marriage after all, and his husband was a jerk, an idiotic pig like me. What a pity, Alex sighed. Now, what is the reason why you are here? You were about to enter the cycle of reincarnation again, but our daughters sacrificed part of their life to save you and brought you back from the door of death, and you became a wandering soul. If it hadn't been for our intervention, your soul would have been wandering between the state of life and death, in this fleeting abyss of darkness. This place is known as the Goddess Sanctuary where we live. He gulped. Alex gulped. He didn't think the situation was that serious and thought that the goddess must have brought him here. Then, Mother-in-law Goddess, how can I return, or will I ever be able to return? Alex asked in a worried tone. Who are you calling mother-in-law? Rebecca screamed, but Alex heard no hint of anger in her voice and thought that perhaps the goddess had accepted the inevitable fate of her daughter's life being ruined by marrying him. It may take a year or 10 years or 100 years, it depends on when your body in the real world is fully healed and ready to accept your soul. What? So many years? That means I'll have to rot here for eons, Alex exclaimed in panic. You don't look like you're rotting here, a goddess complained as she saw Alex being cared for by her queen, as if you were her own son. Alex, listen my son, the queen goddess spoke in a warm tone, brimming with warmth. Alex doesn't know if it was real or the queen goddess using her power, but her words always gave him a sense of security and belonging. Since you're here, we will teach you what we know as best as we can for the future prosperity of you and your wives. A cruel fate awaits you, so you must become stronger to face it. Goddess of prosperity, goddess of wisdom, goddess of war, goddess of wealth, goddess of lust, they will teach you what they know. So get ready for a grueling training session. As the queen goddess explained to him, Alex's mind was stuck in a flash upon hearing the name of the goddess of lust. So, I'm also married to the daughter of the goddess of lust. Sweat was pouring down his forehead. By the way, who among his wives is the daughter of the goddess of lust? Alex thought as many perverted thoughts came to his mind, but he shook his head to clear them. After the queen goddess explained to him that she had fallen in love with him and decided to adopt him as her son, he decided that the goddess of war would be the first to teach him, since the most important thing for him was to become stronger. Although teaching here wouldn't affect his real strength and he would only carry the knowledge and experience when his soul returned to his body, that was enough for him. Wait, Alex wanted to refute and wanted to ask something, but he was pulled by the goddess of war, and their figures disappeared, leaving others. As soon as Alex's figure disappeared, the thrones in the room disappeared, leaving behind the goddess queen, who was bound with a chain from head to toe. Rebecca looked at her and said, Queen, will you be alright after using so much power? Don't worry about me. For my son I can even give up my divinity. A tear ran down her eyes and wet her cheek as she thought of the countless beings being slaughtered and killed by that being. Now everything is in the hands of fate. Only time will decide if the world will survive or sink into darkness. Chapter 6, The Return of the Imbecile. Alex didn't know how long it had been since he was in a coma. His soul was able to pass through the realm of life and death, but the goddess guided his soul to her sanctuary. After spending his time in the sanctuary, only the goddess knew how many years had passed, but after a long period of time, his soul had finally returned to his body. Alex opened his eyes and saw the familiar ceiling that he remembered from the blurry memories he had when he was an imbecile. He looked around blankly, as if he had woken up from a long dream. His vision was blurry and painful, to the point that tears were welling up, as his eyes hadn't seen the light for a long time. He felt a strange liquid flowing from a bag onto his arm. He tried to get up, but his body had no strength to get up. He tried to tilt his head and a small cracking sound was heard. His muscles and bones had become stiff because he was in a coma. He tried to lift his hands and slowly, he regained his strength. His vision recovered, but he still had a slight headache. As he thought about getting up, he heard a whisper. Pretending to be asleep, he watched two black-clad assassins approaching him. Shit, Alex inwardly cursed his luck. He had never had even a shred of luck, not in his previous life or this one. He had just returned and now his life was in danger again. As he cursed his life, a woman's silhouette quickly appeared and killed the two men as quickly as a falcon kills its prey. The woman was wearing a black assassin's outfit, and the tight cut of her dress simply highlighted her curves. Alex saw the woman removing her veil and lamenting with sad eyes. Seeing the beautiful face with a curvaceous body, it didn't take him long to recognize her. Rial was trained since childhood to be his caretaker, who later became his fifth wife. But after meeting the goddess, he learned that she was the daughter of the goddess of lust. Out of all his wives, as far as he could remember, only Rial genuinely cared for him. He didn't know how someone like a fat pig could like him when he felt like vomiting, thinking of how he looked when he was fat, but after being in a coma for months, all his fat had worn off and he now looked like a skinny rag of bones. Although he didn't know when or how she became an assassin, he had vague memories of Rial being called the Queen of Shadows by a group of people. Seeing her, unable to contain his excitement, Alex got up from the bed. Rial, after finishing her work, turned around and saw a pale, thin young man with long blonde hair looking at her with a loving gaze. Seeing his expression, her heart filled with tears and she closed her mouth with her hand and cried out, "My lord, are you awake?" Her breathing quickened as she saw the lord, who seemed to emit an unearthly beauty in contrast to the appearance he had before. What surprised her the most was the lord's gaze. As far as she remembered, her lord's eyes were always wandering back and forth and couldn't focus on one point, but she could see his gaze, which was focused solely on her. "Yes, Rial, I'm back," Alex said as tears of happiness welled up in her eyes. Alex's body was too weak to move. Also, she didn't want to reveal that she had woken up from a coma for now, and she didn't want to alert the nobles. The first thing Alex did was heal her body with a healing spell and regain her energy, but contrary to her expectations, no changes occurred within her grasp. A long sigh escaped her mouth. In the goddess's shrine, she had trained hard and had reached the point of the highest realm in this world, but now she was just a helpless little lamb that anyone could step on. When this reality hit him, he lost all strength in his body and closed his eyes again. He wanted his mind to go blank for a moment, as the feeling of exhaustion was eroding his body. He found it difficult to even stay awake for hours. While Alex lay in bed, wrapped in a warm and cozy blanket, accompanied by a fairy, Rial was lying beside him and had already gone to sleep, having sweet dreams. Even after sleeping next to a beauty, he was unable to fall asleep. Alex looked at Rial's stunning beauty and a sweet scent wafted through the air. He was too nervous to fall asleep. Since he couldn't fall asleep, he thought about his plans. The first thing he needed to do was train himself, but for that he needed at least some time for his body, as in his current state he could barely walk. After that, he had to analyze how things were in his country. Leaving the country in the hands of the nobles did not bring him any good and led to ruin. Alex wants to know from Rial about his other wives. Catherine and Christine were in the right kingdom. Athena, after marrying him, was stripped of the title of saint and was banished from the main church. But she was still in a church in Kinley trying to help the poor and weak, while Yvonne was on her estate running the business. "This sucks," Alex laughed bitterly. Though he couldn't deny that he was attracted to them and wanted to meet them and win their love. Though he had taken on the responsibility of a husband, he didn't think his wives saw him as a man. As things stood, his pride as a man was going to be trampled on by them. While Alex was lost in his thoughts, he heard a faint sound coming from his mind. "What the hell? Where the hell did this RPG screen come from?" Alex muttered as he saw the screen in front of him and fell into deep thought as another message appeared before him on the screen. "Host, you have 10 seconds to choose. If you don't choose within 10 seconds, the system will be deactivated and may take a few years to become active again." "What? Activate? I mean, yes, what the fuck? He's already threatening me." Chapter 7, The Goddess Guidance System. Gulp. Alex held back his saliva as he looked at the virtual screen in front of him and said, "Yes." Following his command, a screen appeared showing his status. Name, Alex von Stan, species, human, rank, none, level 1 EXP. 0/10 power. 6/10 mana. 0 strength. 3 agility. 2 stamina. 5 vitality. 4 stat points. 0 active skills, Eyes of Truth, locked. Mana Sensor, locked. Emperor's Charisma, locked. Emperor's Pressure, locked. Goddess of Fortune's Blessing, locked. Healing, locked. Restoration, locked. Goddess Enhancement, locked. Passive Skills, Piercing Thrust level 0, Heavy Iron Swordsmanship level 0, Abyssal Slash level 0, Great Martial Art level 0, Powerful Punch level 0, Spell, locked. 5 Elements Breathing Technique level 0. Alex's eyes widened as he saw the pathetic state in front of him. He was too weak. No, he was just a twig that could be snapped by the wind. His health was so low that a sneeze could have knocked him unconscious. Furthermore, All the skills he had learned by working day and night had been blocked. Although it might seem wrong if he could use all the skills the moment he got up. What the hell is wrong with this body? Alex muttered in an irritated tone. Host, this is the current state of your body. Since you have been in a coma, your body is too weak. Furthermore, your soul needs to adapt to the current body. Alex's red eyes flashed when he heard, but a frown appeared on your face. By the way, who are you and what is this system? Host, I am the AI of the system that will guide you on the journey of your life. Now, about your second question, this is the Goddess Guidance System. The power that the system will provide originates from you. What? The power comes from me? Alex asked with a dumbfounded expression. Yes, host. Over countless years of training, you have become quite a strong individual who can threaten the highest power, but it wasn't in your own body, so you only have the experiences and memories of it. The goddess queen used her divinity, and all of your strength had been put into this system, and this system will help you slowly and quickly regain your strength. Haha, ha, Alex said with a self-deprecating laugh. So, in the end, my hard work wasn't in vain. In the goddess shrine, he can't even remember how the day and night passed. When he was training with the goddess of war, he was beaten until he couldn't take it anymore. And if this wasn't enough, after his training with the goddess of war, he would have to go through a torture session with the goddess of lust, who will use all of her charms to make him get used to the charms. After that, the goddess of wisdom would drag him into a study session followed by a spell session by the goddess Rebecca. By the way, why are my mana and magic at 0? Even though everything else is low, it was still better than nothing. Host, that's because you haven't awakened mana yet, and I suggest you refrain from going through an awakening. Why? Alex asked with a frown. Did you forget the goddess teaching? A vessel must be strong enough to hold the things inside. Your body will burst into pieces if you try to awaken mana. Alex's face turned red in embarrassment. In the heat of the moment, he had forgotten the basics. Most mistakes people make is awakening mana without having a strong body. With a strong body, your strength will multiply even more with your awakening. Well, what do I have to do now? Alex asked. Host, you must first awaken before you can do anything. Alex's next words almost choked in his throat when he heard the system. Can't you increase my health or strength a little or give me a small quest? The system works to make you stronger, not to hand you everything on a plate. Every time you get stronger, it will be thanks to your work. The system will simplify the process and will not skip it. Give it a few days and you will naturally regain some strength to walk, after which the system will assign you a quest. I understand you, Alex murmured as he looked at the sleeping beauty who was sleeping soundly without any trace of worry on her face. Alex could sense that Raya did not sleep properly for the next month due to her caring and worrying for Alex. Alex looked at the sensual pink lips and tried to move his hands to touch them. If he had the strength, he would have gotten up and kissed her already. After all, she belongs to him alone, and she will be the only wife of his in this life whom he had pledged to protect. Alex remembered his last word with the goddess where he promised her that he would take care of her daughter and prove himself a worthy husband. I wish it was that easy to get along with others. Raya and Alex were both 19 years old while his other wives were older than him. His first wife Catherine was the queen and is 25 years old. She is the daughter of the goddess of wisdom and is quite capable and unshakable in spirit. His second wife Christina was the daughter of the goddess of war and was a Valkyrie, a flower that blooms in the middle of the battlefield. She was close to the transcendent rank, but in order to marry him she was crippled and her rank dropped to the disciple level. His third wife Athena was the daughter of the goddess of prosperity, who was the saint and wanted to dedicate her life to helping others, but her position was stripped away and she was an outcast of the church. His fourth wife Yvonne was the daughter of the goddess of wealth, and if what Alex remembered was correct, she has quite a poisonous tongue, although she is quite soft inside. Each of them is a beauty capable of summoning a war to be conquered. Thinking about getting along with them was already giving Alex a headache. Since he can't start his training now, he must first gain some general information about this world and its structure. His current life is more like that of a reincarnated mech, where he dies by accident and occupies the body of a dead person who has no knowledge at all. But before he could do anything, he had to get out of his damn bed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, Mission. After 5 days of continuous care and constant treatment by Ridaya, Alex was able to recover a little and can now lift his arms freely, but walking and running on his feet were still farther away than he thought. His health points increased from 6 to 7 after being fed nutritious soup every day. Alex asked Ridaya about healing potions, but Ridaya told him that his condition was too bad to afford to buy healing potions. Furthermore, all the healing potions they had obtained from the Empire before coming here were used on Alex to help him when he was in a coma. Alex only sighed and cursed his misfortune. In this life, he was born with a silver spoon, but it was snatched away from him before he could use it. If he had been able to recover from his foolishness when he was in the royal place, things would surely be different. While he was still undergoing rehabilitation, he wasted no time and read books to replenish his knowledge about the world. The name of this world is Everton. It was a large central landmass ruled by many species. Humans have 3 large empires, Kinley, which is the oldest, followed by the newly discovered Arkan and Herald. Since each empire is as large as a continent of its previous world, the empire is divided into numerous small vassal kingdoms. Vassal kingdoms can wage war against each other, and unless another empire invades the vassal state, the empire usually does not intervene. Vassal kingdoms are ranked from level 1 to level 7, with level 1 being the best and level 7 being the worst. The kingdom of Nevin was previously level 4, but it dropped to level 7. Fortunately, there were other level 7 kingdoms as well. Alex felt that if he was going to remain in a coma for a year or two, then a level 8 should be used for Nevin. Catalina's right kingdom was level 6, but she raised it to level 3, but abandoned it after the Emperor invaded it and merged it with Nevin. Seeing Alex sighing every day, Ridaya said, "Lord, I know you're worried about a lot of things, but think about the bright side." The bright side? What bright side is there to think about? We're all drowning in darkness, aren't we? Alex chuckled and let out a heartless laugh. Ridaya bowed to Alex, who was sitting in the wheelchair, and taking his hands and caressing them, she spoke softly to him, "My lord, the first good thing is that you're no longer a moron or an idiot and you've regained your mental state. The second thing is that now look at yourself when you were in a coma, you have lost weight. Every time I hear others say that you are a disgusting pig and a filthy pig, it makes my heart ache. But now that you have lost weight, when you recover you will shine like a bright sun among the sea of stars in the sky." Alex blinked when he heard Ridaya's sweet voice that had a tinge of sensuality. Her sweet sensual voice was like molasses falling on him and melting the block of pain while providing a sense of serenity. "Ridaya, I wonder about one thing. All my wives are forced to marry me by that damn father of mine, and they all must hate me to the core, but in you I can't see any trace of anger, sadness or remorse. Rather, when I woke up and saw the happiness on your face, I was shocked for a moment. Moreover, even after doing so much, you will be hiding in the shadows and everyone will think that you are a servant," Alex said. When he woke up, Ridaya hugged him and cried for a while. Her 2 large attributes pressing against his chest gave him a wonderful feeling, but the moment was not right at that moment for him to enjoy it. Every movement of Ridaya was full of charm and elegance. She is a natural seductress. Alex was sure that if he was healthy, he would find it difficult to control his impulse. Ridaya let out a seductive laugh that melted Alex's heart and said, "My lord, my existence is thanks to you. When I was little, I was a slave who was going to be sold to people as a toy, but you rescued me. The Emperor saw that I was very talented and decided to train me as your servant and guard. I have already dedicated my life to yours, but when the Emperor decided to put my name on the contract as your wife, my happiness knew no bounds. This Ridaya is only yours in this life and the life to come after. My soul is already yours." Ridaya displayed a gentle smile with her sparkling black eyes. Alex felt as if an arrow had been shot through his heart. She is as terrifying as a succubus. He fears that he will be sucked dry in bed if he doesn't improve his stamina. Alex raised his head and held Ridaya's face, attempting to pull her towards him. Ridaya followed Alex's idea and her face came closer to Alex's. Alex bent down, gave her a soft kiss on the forehead and caressed her head. "My lord." Ridaya's eyes widened and she blushed a little, as her face turned slightly red. Ridaya felt her body temperature rise a few notches and she closed her eyes in embarrassment and her eyelashes fluttered as she shook her head shyly. Seeing her reaction, Alex's mouth twitched a little. A simple kiss made her react in such a way, causing her body to heat up. If he kissed her on the lips, he was afraid that it might ignite her desires. The goddess of lust had clearly warned him to keep Ridaya in check. There were chances that she might feel the urge to satisfy her sexual desire, and if she did not control herself, Something terrible might happen if one day she lost control of her charm, and everyone around her might become sex freaks. Previously, he was wondering why Aridia wore a veil most of the time. But after knowing a few things, he knew that if she left her face uncovered, it could cause havoc. Her charm will only increase with her strength, and by using her charm, she can turn any living being into her puppet. Alex's eyes sparkled with resolve. She cannot take things easy, even though her body is recovering. If this continues, it would take too much time. Alex tried to lift her legs and put them on the ground. She tried to stand up, but her legs were shaking, and when she started to put force on them to stand up, she stuttered and fell to the ground. Aridia, who was standing aside, quickly caught Alex, but Alex pushed her away and forbade her from helping him. She had to do this on her own free will. Alex fell down several times while trying to walk. It was like a newborn baby trying to walk but repeatedly failing. His legs had forgotten how to walk, plus there were no muscles in his legs that could support his uneven bones. After countless attempts, Alex was finally able to stand up without falling down and exhaled in relief. It was then that a message suddenly appeared before his eyes. Quest: run 10 kilometers, push up 100 times, lift up 100 times, time limit. 5 days reward. 5 stat points. Quest starts now. Chapter 9, Recovery. The castle Alex was staying in was quite large, but the workers working there were quite pitiful. Most of the maids and servants had to leave the castle because they weren't getting their wages. The one in charge of giving them the money had pocketed everything. On top of that, there were only 100 soldiers on his side, and among them, only a few soldiers were awakened and had the rank of squire. And to add insult to injury, most of the soldiers left here are spies for the nobles who report on daily activity. Many soldiers have joined the nobles' private army, while Alex didn't know if there was even a single soldier who is loyal to him. But what can anyone in their right mind do who would want to serve a king like him? Thus, the job of protecting Alex fell to Aridia, who is an epic-ranked warrior who protected Alex from the shadows. Aridia was accompanied by her 2 trusted maids, and both of them were of the rank of squire. Layla and Rose. Along with Aridia, they were both responsible for Alex's safety in case Aridia needed to leave Alex for some reason. Alex learned that their kingdom had around 4,000 soldiers in total, but most of them had left with Catalina to her city. Although Catalina's kingdom merged with Nevin, it operated independently of Nevin for now. Catalina wanted to merge her right kingdom with Nevin and make it stronger, but the corrupt nobles didn't want that to happen, as their power would severely decrease. As the true authority lies with Alex, who used to be a dirk, the noble manipulated Alex into signing the document, where the authority to roll out any decrees had to be done with the full support of the noble houses. While Nevin and Wright were burning from within due to an internal conflict, the kingdom of Amidon, which was on Wright's side, wanted to use this opportunity to occupy some of Wright's territories. Wright was already weakened after Kinley invaded it and needed something to get it back on track, but Nevin's merger was dragging it down. Seeing Nevin's state getting worse by the day despite Catherine's work, she decided to take a chance. She asked the soldiers who were dissatisfied with Nevin's current management to come to her city, right? And once they had become stronger enough and dealt with the neighboring kingdom, they would purge the nobles by force and free Nevin from the clutches of those runaway nobles. The nobles, though dissatisfied, have to obey her. As with Wright's fall, Nevin's fate would not be good. In response to his call, 80% of the soldiers set out, although they were quite weak, but under Catherine's command and strict guidance they would soon become a force to be reckoned with. Alex obtained this information from Aridia, as Catherine had informed everyone of her plans. Although Alex was eager to announce his arrival, unless he made them see in person the changes he had gone through, it won't make any difference. In the large group within the castle, a young boy lay on the ground of the training ground breathing heavily. Only 10 push-ups, just a meager 10, were enough for him to be completely exhausted. Alex looked at the screen. Quest: walk 10 kilometers. 7/10 km, do 100 push-ups. 63 out of 100 do 100 pull-ups. 49/100 time remaining. 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 34 seconds. Luckily, the system took pity on him and gave him a few days to complete it. Otherwise he would die simply from completing the quest. And an announcement will be made: the King of Nevin died while doing push-ups and left for Holland. The goddess has finally heard our call and taken the idiot away. It's time to celebrate. He looked at the stopwatch. There were almost 2.5 days left. Walking 10 kilometers wasn't a problem, but doing push-ups and chin-ups was too annoying for his current body. Every time he does a push-up, he feels like his bones are breaking. Alex's body was the weakest out of everyone and he had a poor constitution. Medical science in this world isn't as developed as in his previous world and people rely mostly on magic. During the 6 months he was unconscious, his body didn't receive many nutrients and proper protein, which degraded his muscles and depleted all his stored fats. Alex had dyed his hair black and with his shape shifting, no one would be able to identify him. The castle was rather deserted and there were barely any guards except for a few at the entrance who were mostly just hanging around. Even a thief could break into a castle and steal money if he still had any. Alex's goal was to reach a normal level of stats that an ordinary healthy human has and then try to gather a group of loyal people to his side first. An ordinary human, except for his mana and magic, everything is 10 points but it doesn't have even half of the higher value for most. Alex can increase his strength by training or completing the system requirements to obtain stat points. Alex took the towel from Ridia, who was dressed in a maid dress and had a veil covering her face. Alex smiled. Ridia, tell me, do we have a good martial instructor? Alex asked in a serious tone. Ridia thought for a moment, putting her hand on her waist and bending her body a little, which exposed her mature curves. Alex rolled his eyes and looked at her in satisfaction. After all, he had had the privilege of admiring her beauty. What about the martial instructor who taught the soldier? Ridia asked. How is he? He is, if we measure him by Kinley's standards. He is a master in rank, Ridia said. And what about his age? He is around 40 years old, my lord, Ridia asked. Okay, call him at the end of the week. I want to meet him, but what would we say if he asked us? Ridia said. Tell him that I am a secret guard who is assigned to protect the king. As for my identity, tell him that he does not need to know it now. Alex spoke and went back to exercising a little. By the end of the week he will make sure to reach the normal level. Thanks to the system, he learned that he can increase his strength without the help of the system, so training and exercising not only increases his points, but he can also compete for the mission along the way, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Name, Alex von Stan Species, human rank, none, level 1 EXP. 0/10 power. 8/10 mana. 0 strength. 7 agility. 8 stamina. 6 vitality. 7 stat points. 5 active skills, Eyes of Truth, locked, Mana Sensor, locked, Emperor's Charisma, locked, Emperor's Pressure, locked, Goddess of Fortune's Blessing, locked, Healing, locked, Restoration, locked, Goddess Enhancement, locked, Passive Skills, Piercing Thrust level 0, Heavy Iron Swordsmanship level 0, Abyssal Slash level 0, Great Martial Art level 0, Powerful Punch level 0, Spell, locked, 5 Elements Breathing Technique level 0. Alex looked at the screen inside. He didn't achieve his goal one way or the other. He thought about using the stat points to level up the points, but the system prevented him from doing so. First, his strength had reached the maximum his body could withstand, and the system said that if he put any more strain on his body, his HP would decrease instead of his strength increasing. Also, the reason why he can't max out his stats based on level is because of HP. The system said that since he had only recently acquired his body, his strong soul hadn't fully adapted to his body and it would take a bit of time, so the system suggested taking it easy for now. According to the system, Alex is quite robust and has reached a level where even a supreme rank powerhouse can't harm his soul. The system acts as an intermediary for Alex's soul to settle into his body and adapt to his weak body. That's why he can't use the stat points he gained from the system and wait a few more days. His soul had almost assimilated into his body, and in a day or two, Alex would gain all the points of a normal, healthy human. While Alex was lost in thought looking at his state, he looked around when he heard footsteps and stared at the man who arrived. Alex smiled looking at the man who was looking at him with a solemn expression. Alex pulled out a wooden sword and walked up to him and said, "Hello sir, I'm Rex. Nice to meet you." But in return for his warm greeting, he only received a cold snort. Chapter 10. In contrast to Alex's warm greeting, he was greeted with a cold snort from the man. Alex looked at the man, who looked rather irritated as he examined him from head to toe. "Why are you so irritated?" Alex muttered to himself and wondered. Alex had changed his appearance, so he wondered if the man would be able to identify him. The instructor who was in charge of training the recruits had a terrible expression on his face, as if Alex had stolen his wife and run away. "Sir, is something wrong?" Alex asked lowly. The man spoke in an angry tone. "When I was called, I was told that you would be the king's guard, but after looking at you I feel like I've wasted my time. You're nothing but a bag of bones. I thought I could finally raise a good one, a talented one, but I've looked at myself. Can you even lift a sword without falling? Alex scratched his head in embarrassment. True to the man's words, he had tried to lift a sword a few days earlier but was unable to. He couldn't even lift a 15-kilogram sword. Although Alex's build hadn't undergone a drastic change, he was confident that he could now lift and fight with a sword. Sir, I'm serious about learning swordsmanship and training to be a strong knight, Alex said, giving a resolute expression. Ha ha ha. Are you kidding me? You want to be a knight? The man laughed and said, it's been years since Nevin gave birth to a knight. A knight is a soldier or warrior who has reached the rank of epic before the age of 25. You can obtain the title of knight only if you can meet the conditions before you turn 20, and Alex had already turned 19. Listen, boy, the first thing is that your body is in no condition to learn swordsmanship. First, you need to be physically fit or meet a prerequisite. If you were an awakened, I could have taught you swordsmanship from the start, or at least if you had a good physique, but the man pulled Alex over and held his palms, then his legs and hands, and examined something and frowned. Hey, you, the man shouted. Yes, Alex took a step back, seeing his furious look. Have you ever walked or run in your life? After examining you, I can feel that your build has changed recently. You were just a fat pig who rarely walked, just like that fool king who does nothing but eat, play, and sleep. Alex's eyes sparkled as he looked at the man. The man was talented in this field. He could tell the condition of his body just by touching it. Although he is quite tough, he is quite good at his job. If it comes to teaching, this man might need 100 years to teach him. What can anyone teach Alex when he was trained and taught by the goddess of war herself? The reason he asked for the instructor was to test him and see if the man was useless like the nobles and took advantage of money, or if he was fit for the job. Sir, why did you stay here instead of going to right following the queen? Alex asked. Huh. It's not that I don't want to leave, but I can't leave even if I wanted to. The Nevin kingdom is already on the verge of collapse, and if I leave, who will train the soldier, if by chance there are any left? The man spoke with a sad expression. Every day I woke up hoping to see a recruit appear and be able to train him, but unfortunately no one appeared, and the remaining soldiers had been taken by the nobles and became their slaves. Those morons had been tainted by corruption and greed. Seeing the man's expression, Alex's heart filled with sadness. Rabbi said that the kingdom's finances were so bad that we couldn't even recruit soldiers. But it's not actually us who don't have money, but the nobles who leave no room for profit. After their coma, they didn't let a single opportunity pass to hoard wealth and drain the resources. Alex knew that he wasn't a good king before, and he also knew that he couldn't be blamed for this since he wasn't in a position to be a king. Yet he still felt a great deal of guilt whenever he heard about the situation. He wanted to hurry up and start with the management, but without enough strength and preparation, he would be playing into their hands, as the nobles wouldn't let him do as he pleased and would hire an assassin to kill him or do something else to keep him down. Alex clenched his fist tightly and looked at the man with a serious expression. If it were just about fencing, it could be said that Alex knew the techniques of the higher-ups more than anyone else in this world. But he wanted to see the instructor who is in charge of reaching out to them, and maybe he can teach the man some moves, making him the foundation of Nevin's future soldiers. If Alex had the eyes of truth, he would be able to see the man's potential, but he hasn't unlocked it. Even without it, he can see that the man had good potential. It's just that the lack of resources has dragged him down. The man shuddered a little as he saw the look of the boy, whose innocent eyes suddenly became sharp. Sir, please help me. If you don't want to teach me how to use the sword, that's fine, but please help me become stronger. I want to change this kingdom and help it rise again. My contribution may not make much of a difference, but at least I can proudly say that I raised my hand in difficult times while others deserted and ignored the kingdom's call. This country is my homeland, and I swear that I will make my mother proud more than any other. Mother, your son will surely prove his world to you so that you can look up, holding your head high. Alex's impassioned speech made something awaken within the man as he looked at the boy and felt that he had failed to judge him. Like others, I had also lost hope. Instead of wasting time, if I had looked for children and people who wanted to fight and trained them, I would have surely been able to form a squadron, but I gave up and left everything to fate, the man said with a terrible expression. Boy, let's begin our training. We can't waste time with just those passionate speeches. You mean you'll teach me sportsmanship? Alex said, trying to act like he was quite happy and excited about it. No, I'll train you physically first. The man spoke up and gave him a routine. As soon as the man finished saying those words, Alex saw a screen appear in his vision. Quest: run 5 kilometers, do 50 push-ups, do 50 pull-ups, do 50 jumping jacks, do 50 squats, lift weights 50 times time. 1 day reward. 3 stat points and more dex trust. Wow, Alex exclaimed with a surprised expression. Although the training was difficult, it wasn't impossible. If it had been a few days ago, he was sure he wouldn't be able to continue this regimen, but now the missions were just a source of stat points for him. Chapter 11, Murderer. Alex followed the training regimen for 10 days. He obtained the stat points after finishing the training regimen on the first day, but after repeating it, the system did not give him any more stat points, nor did he receive quest updates again. His body had recovered, and except for his health, all of his stats were over 10, and there were still some stat points left. Now that his body had gotten close to normal and his constitution had improved a bit, it was time for him to work on his mana. In order to awaken, one needs to sense the mana and store it in their vessel. After training, using a good breathing technique will give a significant boost. Alex had a good breathing technique that would not only increase his mana recovery, but the mana he inhaled would be purified and flow through his body and alter the structure and increase the physique of his body. This means that not only will his body be strengthened, but also many impurities that accumulate throughout the course will be removed from his body at the same time as the breathing technique can cleanse the impurities and strengthen his internal and visceral parts. The name of the breathing technique was 5 elements breathing. Here the 5 elements means the 5 natural elements: wind, earth, water, fire, and lightning. Alex closed his eyes and tried to use the technique he had been taught, but he didn't feel any change for minutes. But after a few minutes, he felt something. Gradually, he began to feel a tingling sensation in his lungs, and the air he breathed in flowed through his body, giving him a warm feeling. You have learned all 5 elemental breathing techniques. 5 elemental breathing techniques ranked from none to G rank. Alex was caught off guard by the sudden notification and nodded his head in satisfaction after seeing it, but he received another notification again. Host, are you going to wake up like this, or do you want to build a mana heart? Mana heart, Alex muttered, raising his eyebrows for a moment. As he thought about it, the information about mana heart suddenly clicked in his mind. Huh. I don't know how long it's been since I heard that term and it came to mind. Alex chuckled at his naivety. When one awakens, as you know, mana is stored in the vessel, and the user manipulates it to do many things and level up by increasing its amount. A mana heart, as the word sounds, is not a mana heart. Rather, it allows one to use their heart as a reservoir of mana. Just like how people in cultivation have dantians, people in this world have mana vessels, but those vessels are different from blood vessels. Generally, the heart only pumps blood, but a mana heart also allows the user to store mana in their blood, and their heart serves as a reservoir, and while it pumps blood, it also pumps mana in the process, which is taken from the air and mixed with the blood to perform efficient mana transportation. Some people are unable to use or manipulate mana. It is not that they are incompatible with mana, but rather their bodies were not able to awaken mana due to their vessel structures. One such example is the barbarian race species, who do not have a vessel to store mana, but in exchange for utilizing it, they gain a great increase in their physical strength and constitution. With this system, Alex can also walk the path of the unawakened warrior by training his body to the limit, but he did not want to do that. Instead, if he could make a mana heart, he would be able to gain a strong physical constitution, as his mana heart will gradually increase his physique. But the problem was that you had to make a mana heart before you woke up so that it could start once you woke up, and the process couldn't be left for later, and making a mana heart is quite a troublesome and hateful task. That's why it was used in ancient times, and since people didn't want to waste time on it in later generations, they discarded it. As a result, now you can rarely find one with a mana heart. A person with a mana heart will have at least double the amount of mana compared to someone who doesn't have one. Alex sighed. It means it will take me some time to awaken. Generally, if a child starts training at 9 years old, it would take them 2 to 3 years to sense mana, and if one wanted to create a mana heart, it could take years. Even with his superior technique and experience, he can reduce the years to just months. But Alex wasn't worried about it because with his system he could increase his strength until awakening, but he had to hunt the monsters to level up, which made it a pain since he was too weak to hunt them. Alex, who was meditating in his room, suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu. The slight knocking sound didn't go unnoticed by Alex after all. Even though he's weak, his battle sense and instinct have been trained beyond a limit. Don't kill him, bring him here, Alex's voice echoed throughout the room. And as if a lightning bolt, a painfully sharp scream was heard and a body fell before him with a thud. Riai broke the man's hands and limbs and he was screaming pitifully. Alex's mouth twitched when he saw the man's condition, and he looked at Riai with a questioning look and asked, "Why did you do that?" Riai understood what Alex was asking of him and said, "My lord, I don't want to take unnecessary risks. What if this man suddenly sneaked out to attack you?" Seeing Riai speak in a worried tone and thinking of his safety, Alex's heart warmed a little. "Who are you? Where is this place?" the man shouted as he scanned the room. "This should be the king's room, but he only saw a skinny boy sitting in front of me, and the color of his hair and facial features seemed to be different from the details he obtained, so who the hell was he?" Alex heard the man shout and replied with a smile, "I'm just an idiot." Chapter 12, Leveling Up. The man was already horrified by the brutal attack on the seemingly innocent woman. He hadn't even set foot inside when, like a lightning bolt, this woman appeared beside him and just one grab from her was enough to break his bones. But what horrified him the most was that this woman, whose eyes were as sharp as a dagger, had such a melodic and innocent tone, and the way she behaves like an innocent child before this skinny boy. "Idiot. What do you mean?" the assassin asked. "It's what you heard. Now, do I give you a choice? Do you want to die by committing suicide or life by answering my question? But what's the point of dying when you can live a good life? You don't have to go back to the assassin organization you worked for. I'll give you some money to disappear and have a good life." Alex spoke as he stood up and pulled the chair over. He sat on it folding his legs and looked at the man waiting for the answer. "Oh. Yes, I will also give you this healing potion, if you remove everything you know." Alex spoke with a mocking smile, but in truth, the potion was just fake-colored water. Gulp. The man gulped and thought about the tempting offer. He is just a mini-squire rank assassin. He was sent here to kill the king since the castle barely had any guards and was practically empty. So it was easy for even a lower-level warrior to kill an ant, like the fat king who is in a coma. But he didn't imagine that he would meet a tigress there. "What do you want to know?" the assassin said in a pained voice. The numbness he felt from his broken limbs was wearing off and he was starting to feel an unnerving pain. "First, who hired you?" Alex asked in an authoritative tone. "I don't know who, but it was noble." Alex rested his chin on his palm and closed his eyes thinking for a moment. "Are you from Kinley? Did anyone from Kinley hire you?" Alex asked. Riai's face turned pale upon hearing Alex's words. If someone from Kinley is behind the assassins, then they would surely be in trouble. Although she is an epic-ranked warrior, Kinley is a place where you can find many epic-ranked ones and was a gigantic power throughout the world. Although it had weakened over time, it is still a force to contend with. Kinley Empire. No, our organization only brings assassins to Nevin. We don't have as much authority as you think, the man said hurriedly. "Okay, thank you for the information," Alex smiled. Seeing a bright innocent smile, the man heaved a sigh as he thought he would be saved and finally live a good life, but his hopes were crushed when a dagger flew out of nowhere and pierced his forehead, killing him in an instant. Alex looked at the other dagger in his hand, which was Riai's killing kit, and said, "Your daggers are quite useful, even the materials used to make them are quite good." As Alex looked at another dagger, a notification appeared before his retina. "You have killed a low-level assassin with the rank of a squire. You have gained 150 experience points. You have leveled up. You have 2 stat points. You have leveled up. You have 2 stat points. Eyes of Truth unlocked. Mana sensor unlocked. Wow!" Alex exclaimed in joy and opened his status window. Name, Alex von Stan English. Species, human rank, none level. 3 EXP. 90/100 power. 10/10 mana. 0 strength. 14 agility. 12 stamina. 11 vitality. 10 stat points. 6 active skills. Eyes of Truth, unlocked. Mana sensor, unlocked. Emperor's charisma, locked. Emperor's pressure, locked. Goddess Fortuna's blessing, locked. Healing, locked. Restoration, locked. Goddess enhancement, locked. Passive skills, piercing thrust LV0, heavy iron swordsmanship LV0, abyssal/LV0, great martial arts LV0, powerful punch LV0, spell, locked. 5 elements breathing technique LV. Alex smiled as he looked at his stats. They were pretty good and he had improved quite a bit in his few days. He previously used 2 stat points. He got them in the first mission and used 1 after the second mission on vitality, 1 on stamina, 2 on strength and agility, and now he got another 2 by leveling up. Alex wanted to explore more and ask more from the system, but stopped when he saw Ridaya's sad and grieving expression. Alex frowned at her expression and thought she might be sad because he killed the assassin. Is it because he wanted to kill her? Alex muttered, but he pushed those thoughts away and called out to Ridaya. Ridaya, why do you look sad? Alex asked. Ridaya knelt down and lowered her head, saying, My lord, I made a mistake. Mistake? What mistake did you make? Alex asked. My lord, there have been several assassination attempts on your life over the past month. When I killed them, many begged me to spare their lives in exchange for the information. Since your condition was not good and I cannot leave your side and kill the people who sent them, I simply killed them without taking the information, but now I know what a grave mistake I made. If I had listened to them, you would at least have the information of those who wanted your life. Please punish me, Ridaya said in a sweet and seductive voice that can ignite desire even in a man who has given up on worldly affairs. Alex's mouth twitched at the way Ridaya said she would punish her. Even though he knew she meant it innocently, her expression coupled with her voluptuous body made it difficult for the other side to hold back his desire. God made a mistake. He must have wanted to turn her into a succubus, but he mistakenly made her born as a human. Even unknowingly, she can seduce anyone with her sweet words. When she controls her charm and uses her seduction skill. My God, one day I'm going to burst if this keeps up, Alex thought to himself. Ridaya, get up, Alex said in an authoritative tone. Ridaya stood up but didn't look Alex in the eyes for fear that she had angered him. Alex smiled at her shy and meek behavior and wrapped his hand along her waist and pulled her into his lap. Hey, Ridaya, put your hands on my neck. As Ridaya put her hand and wrapped it around Alex's neck, Alex caressed and stroked her hair and said, Oh, Ridaya, what can I do except fall in love with you? Alex caressed her and lifted her chin to look at her plum-colored lips and kissed her much to Ridaya's surprise. Chapter 13, The Eyes of Truth. After getting rid of the assassin and spending a nice moment hugging Ridaya, Alex opened the system and saw that he had unlocked the Eyes of Truth and the mana sensor. Hey, system. Can I use it? I haven't woken up yet and I don't have any mana, Alex asked. Host, for the Eyes of Truth and the mana sensor, you don't need to use mana. The Eyes of Truth and the mana sensor are directly linked with the system. The reason it was locked is that you need to have the strength to bear the burden. If you've used it before, it would have put a burden on your eyesight and mind. Okay, 4 stat points. Will there always be 2 stat points when I level up? Yes, host. Stat points are the power you've accumulated that is slowly granted to you in the form of stat points. But you can't rely on stat points alone to become stronger. You have to increase your rank the traditional way and the system will only provide you with an additional boost. Host, don't forget that the strength the system provides is yours to begin with. It's your accumulation, the one you've built up while training at the goddess shrine. Furthermore, the huge boost the system provides primarily strengthens your foundation. Alex nodded upon hearing the system's words. The system can help you build a solid foundation. No, it can help you build the strongest foundation. Think of the foundation as a base number and every time you rank up, your power doubles. A person who has a base value of 8 will become increasingly stronger than a person with a base value of 4 and the gap will grow wider and wider by a wide margin with each rank up. Ridaya, Alex called out to her as he decided to use the Eyes of Truth. Eyes of Truth. The Eyes of Truth allow one to see the potential in others and discover their strengths. They can also see through the other person's disguise and on a higher level, they can also identify whether one is lying or not. Mana Sensor allows users to cover a wide area and sense other people's presence and can also track and distinguish a person based on their mana signature on a higher level. Ridaya's figure suddenly appeared before Alex as she seemed as fast as the wind. She's quite strong. Ridaya had undergone training since the day she was rescued. The training was quite tiring and harsh but Ridaya, with her strong will and determination, was able to overcome it. Alex activated the Eyes of Truth and her red eyes glowed fiercely as her gaze fell upon Ridaya. Name, Ridaya. Rank, Epic and Incarnation of the Goddess of Lust. Class, Assassin. Talent, Assassin, Hypnosis by her charm. Potential, Superior. When one casts Eyes of Truth, it shows a person enveloped by a certain color. Low potential with a red hue, average with yellow, high with green and superior with gold, and Ridaya had superior potential much to Alex's surprise. And to make matters worse, Alex had heard the goddess Rebecca say that he had average potential, But it was his persistence and tenacity to reach higher that made his home stronger. In the large training ground, where there was not a single soul present except for Alex and Mordek. As soon as Alex held the sword, a notification appeared before him. Quest, Thrust. 0/1000 reward, level up thrust. Quest, / 0/1000 reward, level up with /. No matter how many types of sword techniques are created, they all evolved from the 5 basic sword moves. Slash, thrust, chomp, parry, slice. When these moves are combined with footwork, a whole new set of sword techniques are created. But if one masters each of these basic moves by practicing them to a higher level of mastery, they can destroy their opponent's formation and exploit their weaknesses. As Alex practiced those basic sword moves in simple strikes, he strangely felt irritated. At the goddess shrine, he reached a level where he can cut down an entire mountain with one strike, but now, it would be too good if he could just execute his moves properly, but he could feel himself improving rapidly with each strike. He can feel the adrenaline rush and gain strength to break through the limits. Name, Mordek. Rank, Masterclass, Swordsman. Talent, Teach and Guide. Potential, Average. Alex looked at Mordek's stats, which were pretty good for a neglected kingdom like his own. After finishing his practice with Mordek, Alex said, "Hey, Lord Mordek, do you want to take revenge on the nobles?" Mordek, who was drinking water, coughed, parting the water when he heard Alex's words. "Rex, do you want to die? If any nobles hear you, they'll surely kill you. Do you think that with a few days of training, you'll be able to take down those nobles?" Mordek complained as he stood stunned at the sight of Red attempting to fly before he could even walk properly. "You don't have to worry about that. You just have to accompany me somewhere. The king will take care of the rest," Alex said. "Ha ha 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 ha." Mordek laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke of the century. "That fatty doesn't even know how to manage his pants, and you say he'll take care of the nobles. What a joke." Alex's face turned red in embarrassment and he gritted his teeth as he thought, wasn't he speaking too badly of him, and was this old man exaggerating his previous idiotic behavior to the next level? Mordek smiled but stopped midway through his words and asked with a dumbfounded expression, "Hey, isn't that fatty in a coma? How will he handle it? Did he wake up?" Cough. Cough. "You heard wrong, sir. I was talking about the lady. Did you forget the king's wife who came with her?" Alex said with an embarrassed expression. "Oh. You're talking about her. Isn't she rather whose caretaker? Many have rarely seen her since she always wore a veil when she went out," Mordek said, rubbing his chin. "Still, if you're not doing anything risky and it's for Nevin's sake, I'll give you a hand." "But what are you going to do?" Mordek asked. Alex's lips curved upwards, sensing that Mordek agreed with him. "By the way, what are we going to do?" Mordek asked with a curious expression. "We're going to wreak havoc," Alex muttered under his breath. Chapter 14, Visiting the Assassins as a Guest. On the street, 3 silhouettes walked slowly and steadily. Alex walked in the middle with Riaya and Mordek by his side, and all of them wore cloaks to hide their presence, but no one found his suspicions because the people's lives here were too messy to notice and waste time observing others. In contrast to the bustle one can expect when walking around the kingdom's capital, the atmosphere was rather gloomy and gave a sad feeling of sorrow and pain. Alex looked at the old dilapidated house, the abandoned shops and the dirty roads. Most of the shops were closed and seemed to be in poor condition. There was no proper sanitation or workers to clean the streets. Although the streets were quite wide and perhaps once, they enjoyed glory and were filled with people walking through them with joy and glee, now only lingering suffering and misery remained in them. The places were in dilapidated conditions and proper ventilation was lacking. While the rich became richer, the common poor people became poorer. Alex's eyes grew numb at the sight of their condition, and he looked at the area that looked as if it was in a slum. Instead of the joy and laughter of the children ringing in his ears, he could see them begging with lifeless eyes. Alex clenched his fist and asked, "I know the king is an imbecile and unskilled, but can't a noble at least give them a penny? Can't he at least provide them with work and a steady supply of money? After all, increasing the wealth of the common people can help them increase their wealth through taxes and the production of other things. If things were left like this and one day this kingdom was taken over by another, wouldn't they suffer as well and their titles be stripped away?" Alex spoke with anger that was about to erupt from his body. Riaya looked at Alex and wanted to ease his pain and help him calm down, but she knew that nothing would calm him down until things changed. "That's where you're wrong, Rex. Do you think they're fools who can't even see this coming?" Mordek spoke with a solemn expression. "Then why?" Alex asked with a confused look. Because they can always surrender to the neighboring states, Mordek replied. Alex frowned, and looking at Mordek, he asked, but there are chances of them being stripped of their titles even after being surrounded. Rex, why did you think the nobles didn't ally with another vassal state to take control of the kingdom? Mordek asked. Alex didn't answer but looked at Mordek for an explanation. The first reason is the king. Although they were already looting the treasury, the situation got worse with his coma, and not only that, they even dispersed the soldiers and guards and took the money for military uses, and after that, they started robbing these common people, and the reason why the neighboring kingdom isn't attacking is that they were waiting. They're waiting for these leeches to eat the kingdom from within, and when the kingdom is on the verge of collapse, they'll be able to take it over quite easily, and the nobles will be able to offer them a large sum of money to keep their titles, Mordek explained. By the way, where the hell are we going? Mordek asked as he saw that they had already crossed the central square and were now heading towards the alley. They had arrived at an abandoned and gloomy building. Let's have some fun, Alex said as his lips curved upwards in a beautiful smile. They had arrived at the address that the assassin had given them. He didn't know if the information he had given him was true or false. Besides, he wasn't afraid of any traps as the woman standing beside him was currently the strongest in heaven. Besides, even if the information was false, he had other reasons to go out and find talented people. He was sure that there were plenty of dragons and phoenixes sleeping in the city. Although in this day and age, even a lizard and chickens are better than none at all. Alex stepped forward and knocked on the door. A small flap opened from the door and they heard a voice coming from it. The sun is overhead. Alex listened intently to the man's words and said, whoever tries to lift their head will find it rolling over their feet. It was some sort of security checkpoint that one had to go through. Alex's crew might have managed to make their way through by wreaking havoc and brutally beating them up, but if the leader escaped or wasn't present in the space and heard the news, then it would be quite troublesome. After all, Alex was sure that these henchmen knew nothing and were just cannon fodder. Clang. The door opened with a loud screech. Behind it were two men who were looking at the trio with a suspicious look. I've never seen you here before. Who are you? One of the men said in a gruff tone. Easy there, buddy. We're here to get a commission, so we wanted to meet you, leader, Alex said with a smile. Do you have the money? One of the men asked. Alex took out a bag and threw it to the man and said, you can see for yourself. The man picked up the bag and shook it. Clink. Clink. Sounds of coins clanking together rang in his ears, and he took out a coin and was shocked to see so many gold coins in it. Even Mordek was stunned for a moment to see the number of gold coins. Before his salary was only 2 gold coins, but now he barely gets 2 or 3 silver coins. He nudged Alex with his elbow gently and whispered, Kid, where did you get so much money? It was my savings, Alex muttered softly. He had around 500 gold coins that were kept by Ridaya, and now he brought around 20 gold coins. Now you have seen it, can you return the money? Alex asked. Hey, you moron. Did your mother teach you that one should not ask for money once it has been given to you? The man smiled and laughed mischievously. I didn't know that. Alex spoke with a soft smile showing his pearly white teeth that reflected the rays of light as he made a symbol with his fingers. Ridaya, who was boiling with anger upon hearing the men cursing her lord, moved like a gale of wind and crushed the Adam's apples of both men in an instant. Both men did not die as Ridaya only broke the Adam's apple on their necks. They wanted to scream and cry in pain but no words came out of their throats. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, How to Deal with a Murderer. Alex stepped forward and crouched down and picked up the bag containing coins that fell on the floor and said, I'm bringing down what's mine. The two looked at Alex in horror and held their throats trying to speak, but Alex ignored them and walked past them. Alex had already scanned the entire building, and except for 2 rows of squires on the 2nd floor, he didn't find any awakeners that could pose any threat to him. Follow me and leave them for now, Alex said and walked up the stairs and arrived before the door behind which 2 people were standing. In the room were present a woman and a man who seemed too busy doing something. Their levels were low and they didn't even know that their 2 people had already been taken down. Ridaya thought of knocking on the door seeing the look on her lord's face, but heard a cold voice asking her to break it. Bang! Ridaya kicked the door and with a loud bang, the door's hinges broke and the door flew towards the man sitting at the table. The sudden attack caught him off guard, and he couldn't react to the speed with which the door came at him. And he was hit by the door, which drove him into the wall behind him, and both he and the door crashed into the wall, and he was stuck to the wall. The table was destroyed and the wooden door cracked and was crushed. Who? The woman screamed in horror and pulled out her dagger and was about to move to attack when a drop of blood slid down her neck. To her absolute horror, a dagger pressed against her throat and a woman appeared behind her without her noticing. Mordec's jaw dropped. He couldn't catch the lady's movement. She was much stronger than him. He still couldn't believe that the lady following them was on a higher level than him. Alex laughed at Mordec's reaction and asked him to eliminate the man who was hit by the wall. Mordec was too shocked to complain. If it had been any other situation, he would have scolded Alex for giving him that order. Alex sat on the couch, crossing his legs as Mordec pulled the man out and threw him onto the ground like a rag doll. The man's face was gaunt and some bones in his body seemed to be broken. Alex activated the Eyes of Truth to find that the woman had little potential as an assassin and information-gathering skills, but the man. Name, cadre rank, squire, master, class, assassin talent, assassin and information-gathering potential, average. The man's information shocked Alex. The woman looked at the boy in front of her cautiously and asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" Alex looked at the woman and said, "Nothing." Both the woman and the man frowned upon hearing his words that took them by surprise. Alex's gaze exchanged between the man and the woman and he spoke with a serious expression. "The question shouldn't be what do I want, it should be what the hell do you two want? Sending assassins for the king's hand after taking the noble's money, then what is your goal?" The man and woman's tongues lock at the words and sweat begins to pour down their faces. Their heartbeats quickened as they knew that a single wrong word could kill them. After a moment's thought, the man said, "We wanted to spread our influence." "Wow. That's a good goal, but why kill the king for it?" Alex asked with a curious expression. The man hesitated to speak, but seeing Alex's piercing gaze, he finally began to speak. "I was a member of the secret order of the night, but one of them stabbed me in the back. I wanted to create an equally powerful organization so I could take revenge," the man said with bloodshot eyes. Alex's brows furrowed. After all, he doesn't have much information about this world, but seeing Ria's horrified expression, things weren't as simple as they seem. First, why are you telling me that? And second, what does that have to do with the king's assassin? Do you think killing the king will spread your name far and wide? Alex asked, though he had already guessed the man's intention. "I'm telling you this because you seem to be interested in my work. If not, you would have killed us already. I see that your group is related to the king in one way or another," the man said confidently. "And if you're telling me why I agreed to assassinate the king, it's because I thought I would be an easy target. Our organization is just in the initial phase, so we don't have enough personnel, but if we had known that the king had such individuals by his side, we wouldn't have taken the risk." "Tell me how you knew that the king doesn't have any guards?" Alex asked curiously. "The information was given by the nobles. Currently, the castle has lost a lot of personnel. There were still some royal guards and soldiers, but the nobles filed false charges against them and accused them of treason and imprisoned them," the man replied. Alex's expression turned hideous and his eyes became sharp. Alex tapped his armpit for a moment, looked at the man, and fell into deep thought. Alex took a deep breath and asked, "Work for me. As for who I am, you'll know in 5 days. You'll be able to decide what to do after you see who I am," Alex said in a cold and authoritative voice that makes it hard for the other party to refuse. "But let me tell you, you have 2 choices, either you die or you work for me. And don't think that you can escape me. As long as you're alive, you won't be able to run away from me. In the meantime, give me all the details you have on the nobles who wanted to kill the king," Alex ordered. "But before that, you must take them on oath." Alex smiled and added, "You can refuse to do so, but you'll die a brutal death if you do." The man looked at the man and decided to bet all his prospects on him. At first, it was just a plea to save his life, but now it was a bet to step forward and achieve his goals. After finishing things, Alex stood up and walked out followed by Mordec and Ria, but before he could leave, a man appeared and seeing the 2 men passed out at the entrance he rushed forward to attack. "Ria, let me take care of this," Alex said and stretched his neck. The man holding the dagger tried to attack Alex, but Alex stepped aside, grabbed his wrist and kicked him in the thigh. When the man lost his balance due to the kick, Alex pulled his arm and wrapped it around the man's neck and tried to strangle him, stomping on his other thigh and pinning him down. Bang! Alex punched him in the back and knocked him down. The man who attacked was not an awakened being, but still, he was pretty good, so Alex wanted to test his strength and was quite satisfied with his development. If this continues like this, soon his physical strength would be enough to defeat a squire. Chapter 16, The Search for Talents. Alex, after beating the man, walked out into the street. Now that her first job was done, she wanted to accomplish her second goal, searching for talented people. Riaya walked up to Alex and in a worried tone spoke to him, "My lord," about the secret order of shadows, but Riaya was interrupted mid-sentence by Alex. "You can talk about it later. You can take your time and talk about it when you calm down," Alex assured Riaya. "In the meantime, Riaya, I wanted you to finish this task," Alex said. Riaya nodded her head and looked at Alex in anticipation. "Riaya, go to the prison, find the people who have been imprisoned by the nobles and are innocent and free them. But make sure that no criminals risk escaping by taking advantage of the chaos," Alex ordered. "I don't think you need to worry about that. After all, no criminal is locked up in prison nowadays. You can escape punishments if you offer a large sum of money to the nobles," Mordek said in a sad voice. "In that case, Riaya will give herself over to everything. Show no mercy to those who have been working with the nobles and, yes, make sure you don't kill any innocents." "Okay," Alex advised. "But my lord, your safety," Riaya asked as he was worried about Alex's safety. "Don't worry about me. With Sir Mordek here, nothing will happen to me. Just focus on your task," Alex said and patted her head. Riaya simply nodded her head, making a cute expression of satisfaction and enjoyed Alex's warm touch. Alex smiled as he looked at Riaya, who looked like a cute kitten, and felt an irresistible thirst to pull her ears. Riaya's figure disappeared after having her fill while Mordek looked away at the interaction of these young couples. "Come on," Alex said as he activated the Eyes of Truth and the Mana sensor at the same time. Like a scanner that emits waves and displays the dots, several names and the color of his potential appeared in his vision, but not even a moment passed since he activated it when Alex felt a sharp pain in his head and felt as if his head was going to tear apart from the pain. Alex stumbled as he walked and leaned on the wall and held his head as he panted heavily. Before long his body was already drenched in sweat. The system was right. Now I can't bear the burden. How does the protagonist in the novels manage to use different types of eyes without it having repercussions? Real life is definitely different from fantasy, Alex muttered to himself as he tried to suppress the pain. "Boy, are you okay?" Mordek shouted as he saw Alex's condition worsening and supported him. "It's okay. It was nothing." Alex spoke and deactivated the Eyes of Truth. "That's why the system is prohibiting me from using the skills now. In my state, I'll die if I use them. Still, I can use them for a second or two if I need to," Alex thought. He can still use the Eyes of Truth or Mana sensor individually, but if he uses both at the same time, then... He always wondered why his skills were locked even though he had already learned them and could use them freely. But after using it, he understood that the system had locked it for his safety and would slowly unlock it as he leveled up. If he were to accidentally use the skills in the heat of the moment, the consequences would be quite dire. "I found something, Mr. Mordek," Alex said. Before Mordek could ask what Alex had found, Alex led him towards an old, ramshackle house at the end of the street. In front of the house, a man who looked to be around 20 years old was swinging his axe and chopping at the logs. Ken. While Mordek was busy wondering what was going on, Alex activated the Eyes of Truth. Name, max rank, none class, none talent, barbarian strength potential, high. Alex looked at the burly man who had huge, strong muscles that looked like a work of art. Alex smiled as he saw Max's talents even if he is not awake and cannot use mana. His physical strength alone is enough to take down the enemy. He can even kill the assassin who visited Alex 2 days ago with just a punch. Max rolled his eyes and glanced at the two strangers but went back to his work without paying any attention to them. Alex walked up to Max and said, "Hello Max, I'm Rex." "Nice to meet you." Alex raised his hands but Max ignored him and chopped down the logs. Alex was not offended and asked, "Max, do you want to earn 5 silver coins a month?" Max stopped his attack for a moment and then slashed his axe at the ground. The axe cut through the trunk cleanly but didn't stop after cutting it and hit the ground. Clanking. A small clanking noise was heard and the ground cracked and a small 1-meter fissure was formed as the axe pierced the ground. Alex subconsciously took a step back. Max wiped his sweat, looked at Alex and said angrily, "Hey, do you think this is a joke? Do you know what the current state of the Nevin is? 5 silvers, how have you ever seen it? Max spat on the ground. What hole did you crawl out of, boy? Mordek felt the same way. After all, his salary was only 2 silver, and who was he? The army instructor, the one in charge of the soldier foundation. The only reason he wasn't rotting in prison was that he never openly opposed the noble and waited for an opportunity to arise so he could strike. While everything seems to be shrouded in darkness, one day he received a call from the castle to train the boy who was appointed as the king's guard. He doesn't know how or who appointed him, since no one has the authority to preside over things after the king fell into coma. But he can see the light. His instinct tells him that things are going to change soon. Yes, very soon. Chapter 17, Talent Search 2. Max was the only son and his parents were lumberjacks. They used to bring wood from the forest and cut it to sell to bakeries, blacksmiths, bars, and taverns. They made a decent sum of money selling wood and were quite happy with their lifestyle. Although Nevin was not a high-level kingdom, it was still quite good, but everything changed when the idiot was banished here and was crowned as the king. The current royal family of Nevin mysteriously died, and after the idiot took over the reins, Nevin's economy collapsed. All those who his family supplied wood to stopped buying it because their business went downhill and closed down. In the current era, it was difficult for ordinary people to earn even a single copper coin. 1,000 copper coins would equal 1 silver coin, and 1,000 silver coins would equal 1 gold coin. And then, out of nowhere, a boy appeared and offered him 5 silver coins, as if money grew on a tree and he could just pick it up and throw it to him. It made him so angry that he wanted to slit that kid's throat, but he controlled his anger. Alex smiled and took out a gold coin and tossed it in the air in front of Max and shocked him. Max frowned as he looked at the coin and thought it might be fake. It's not fake. Alex smiled and tossed a coin to Max and said, "You can check it out." Mordek's face boiled with anger as he watched Alex toss the coin. This bastard, if you have so much wealth and you want to flaunt your money, why don't you just toss me a coin? Should I grab 1 or 2 coins? Mordek cursed inwardly, but he was too embarrassed to snatch the money from this kid. Gulp. Max gulped and looked at the coin and took a small bite, and it really was. For God's sake, it's real, Max shouted at the top of his lungs. Mordek took his stance as he saw Max going crazy. After all, who knows? That man might go crazy after seeing the money and attack them to steal the money. Alex smiled at his reaction. He wasn't worried about being robbed, rather it would be good to get attention, and who knows, maybe he'll stumble upon a golden goose. "Hey Max, work for me. I promise you'll earn more than that," Alex said, pointing his finger at the coin. Max's hands were shaking as he held the coin, and his gaze exchanged between the coin and the boy. "I need to calm down." He took a deep breath and managed to control his greed and spoke. "What job do you want me to do? But let me remind you that I won't get my hands on any shady business," Max said resolutely. It didn't matter how poor he was. He would never do anything illegal. Even though he was poor, he had a conscience of his own. "It's not hard at all, you just have to cut it for me," Alex smiled. After talking to Max, Alex wandered around the street again. Without using the mana sensor to cover a large area, he had to look at each individual to find someone worthwhile. But he found nothing. Most of the people he saw had no color at all. They have no potential for anything. That doesn't mean they're worthless. Potential means talent. If you don't have it, you have to work harder like him. He knew that he wasn't good either. If it had been anyone else besides him who had been taught by the goddess, they might have achieved more than him. The training at the sanctuary was brutal and tested the will. As it is the soul, one has no time to eat, no time to rest and sleep. Aside from training, there was almost nothing. If it weren't for the love and care of the goddess queen, he would have gone mad from the crazy training. Alex and Mordek were sitting in front of a shop that seemed to sell bread. The one in charge of the shop was an old woman and her granddaughter. "Brother, do you want bread?" The girl walked up to Alex and asked. Alex looked at the girl, who was wearing tattered clothes that had been patched in many places. Alex activated the eyes of truth but found nothing. The girl looked at Alex with expectation and hoped that the man could buy bread and they could learn something. Seeing her cute look, Alex smiled. "Girl, what's your name?" Alex asked. "Sylvia," the girl replied. Alex patted the girl and said, "Sylvia, can you bring 2 loaves of bread, please?" She smiled like a blooming flower that grew in the desert. Her sweet and innocent smile had its own unique charm. A flower that makes one protected instead of plucking it. "Okay, wait a minute," Sylvia said and ran towards the store. And after a few minutes, She came with 3 lines of bread. "Big brother, thank you for buying. This extra bread is a gift from my grandmother," Sylvia said with a lovely smile. Alex took a loaf and passed one to Mordek. Alex looked at the bread. It was going to spoil soon and it was hard, but it was edible. Alex took a bite, and as he chewed it he felt a sweet and salty taste coming out of it. He saved the 3rd loaf for Raya and muttered, "The less people have, the more they give. Why don't those who have the most like anything? That's the way the world is, Alex. The more one has, the more one wants. A man who earns 10 silver coins will aspire to 11 coins next month. A king who has 1 kingdom will want more kingdoms under his command. Greed knows no bounds. Once one's soul has been tainted by greed, it will know no bounds." Alex carefully pondered Mordek's words. He wasn't sure if he would ever give in to greed. But for now, he had one greed, the greed to get his nation back on its feet. As Alex spoke, he saw a group of children playing with sticks and was stunned for a moment because all of them had a golden yellow aura surrounding them. "I found it," Alex shouted. "What?" Mordek was stupefied for a moment by Alex's sudden shout and nearly fell on his back. "Our goose that laid the golden eggs." Chapter 18, The Hunt. On the outskirts of the forest in the capital of Nevin, a boy with long blonde hair and red eyes was walking down a small narrow path that might belong to a beast walking through it. He followed it to track the beast. As he made his way through the forest, slowly but steadily, the nerves in his body tensed up and his muscles bulged a little due to the strain. His breathing became slightly heavy as he heard a faint voice from a small creature, and he quickly turned around to see a small beast the size of a mouse running through the forest. Alex's eyes locked onto the small mole and he ran towards it. The mole noticed and jumped on it, but the small prey was nothing in its size and was cut down before it could even reach it. "You have killed an otter. You have received 1 experience point." Alex laughed bitterly as he saw the experience. All creatures that have not obtained a rank and are weak give him only 1 experience point. According to the system, an early squire ranked as a monster or human had a level 5 stat when only the stat points awarded by the system were considered. Alex had a lot of fighting experience, but all of his fights had been training and he hadn't fought a single proper battle or a life or death situation. Although it was similar, Alex knew that unless one had a modicum of fear of death, it couldn't be called a death match. Arriving at the forest, Mordek told him that a normal fight can provide a lot of battle experience, but what he wants is level experience, not battle experience. Furthermore, there was something that confused him. There was a forest near the capital, but so far he hadn't heard of any beasts entering the wall that was already on the verge of collapsing. As Alex searched around, he heard a loud rumbling noise from a beast. Alex frowned at the sound and looked around in excitement. Alex dashed towards the source of the sound. He wasn't afraid of risking his life, as both Mordek and Raya were keeping an eye on him. They would simply watch from the sidelines, and unless the situation got out of hand, they wouldn't intervene. Alex jumped out of the bush and arrived before the beast, to see a wolf trying to kill a small lion cub. The lion cub was drenched in blood and was in a pathetic state. Alex activated the Eye of Truth and noticed that it had recently broken through Jet rank but was still at a higher level than him. Alex had managed to reach level 5, and his strength and agility had both surpassed 20 points. 20 points was the threshold that a beast or human rank squire could have. Alex glared at the two-tailed wolf with his hawk-like gaze as the wolf growled at him. The wolf howled and opened its mouth, and a jet of fire came out from its mouth, quickly covering Alex's entire vision. The flame was roughly cone-shaped, and the wolf directly moved its head, aiming at Alex to roast him. The attack was quite similar to a large flamethrower launched by bazookas. Seeing the heat approaching him in a concentrated manner, Alex did not take a step back. Practicing his thrust 10,000 times, he had already reached rank E. Alex pulled his right leg back while pushing his left leg forward, shifting his center of weight forward. Pulling his right hand back slightly and tensing his muscle to the maximum, he thrust his sword towards the incoming burst of fire. Vamp! The air in front of Alex was torn apart, and like an intangible shadow that can't be seen by the naked eye, a highly concentrated beam of pressure in a straight line shot out like a cannon, which blew a hole in the incoming flamethrower. A blast of invincible force blew a hole in the flamethrower and doused the fire, extinguishing it. But the momentum didn't stop there, and the concentrated pressure hit the wolf, knocking it back a few steps. The wolf groaned in pain and felt something hide him and tear his mouth, and as he wondered what had happened, a figure appeared in front of him, and raising his fist, he punched him. Bang! Alex's fist was shot out like a whip, and his punch connected with the wolf's body, sending it flying through the air. The wolf's body shot out like a cannon after being hit by Alex's punch and crashed into the tree with a loud bang. The wolf writhed in pain as he felt his bones being broken. He groaned in pain, and before he could react, a sword appeared out of nowhere and pierced his head. You have killed a squire rank twin wolf. You have gained 150 experience points. You have leveled up. Name: Alex von Stan. Species: human. Rank: none. Level: 6 EXP. 40/250 HP. 30/30 mana. 0 strength. 25 agility. 23 stamina. 19 vitality. 21 stat points. 6 active skills: Eyes of Truth, unlocked. Mana Sensor, unlocked. Emperor's Charisma, locked. Emperor's Pressure, locked. Goddess Fortune's Blessing, locked. Healing, locked. Restoration, locked. Goddess Enhancement, locked. Passive skills: G-level Piercing Thrust, LV0 Heavy Iron Swordsmanship, LV0 Abyssal Slash, LV0 Great Martial Art, LV0 Powerful Punch. Spell, locked. G-level 5 Elements Breathing Technique. Alex looked at the screen and nodded in satisfaction. He was very happy with his progress. With this kind of stat, he can handle the shield rank warrior who had 20 stat points if combined with mana. Alex looked at the cute little lion that looked like a cub. Alex walked over to it and picked it up and petted it. Although this pup may grow up and start hunting others and can even kill humans, for now it was an innocent and rather playful pup that Alex had taken a liking to. Its breathing was rather thin, and seeing its wound, Alex concluded that if it was not treated quickly, it might die. "Raya!" Alex shouted. A slim silhouette materialized before him wearing a black dress. "Raya, take care of it," Alex said and handed the little pup over to him. Not even Alex himself knew that this little pup that was on its deathbed would become a symbol of his empire. Together with Alex, their notoriety would spread far and wide, whose name would terrify Alex's enemies. Chapter 19. Let the show begin. In the deathly silence of the night, Alex stood in front of the window and looked out at the city. His piercing gaze seemed to penetrate deep into the city even from a distance. There was no bustle and everyone seemed to have gone to sleep. There was not even the presence of thieves and thugs who were usually active during the night. Unlike the usual crowds at night in big cities, it seemed rather gloomy and desolate, as if the city was a haunted place and people were forbidden to leave their homes at night. Alex looked at the desk where a pile of documents lay. Alex already had a headache from looking at each document and checking it. Raya had gone out to carry out the task she had been ordered to do, so he felt rather lonely. Alex looked at the two maids and asked, "Is it ready?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "We've taken care of it," Laura said, tilting her head. "Were you able to separate them? Are there even good people among them?" Alex asked with a mocking smile. "Your Majesty, there are only 3 that we can find," Layla said. 3? That's more than enough for now." While Alex was going over his plans, the door opened and Raya walked in and bowed. "My lord, it's finished." "How many?" Alex asked, raising his eyebrows. "About 100, but the quality we have surely outweighs the quantity," Raya said. "By the way, did the noble accept the invitation for the meeting?" Alex asked. "Yes, my lord. Except for Count Hamilton, who is busy defending the western region from the monster. Everyone has accepted and will come tomorrow." Alex smiled, interlaced his fingers and rested his chin on them and said, "Tomorrow is going to be fun." Alex took a deep breath, standing in front of the massive door that had been recently polished. He was shaking a little. You might think he was scared and nervous, but this conclusion is wrong. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. After all, today he was going to get revenge on those bastards. His blood was boiling like a teenager who wants to live his life. Alex's eyes sparkled happily, and next to him was a lady wearing a veil and a white noble dress that was brimming with radiance. "Are you ready? Try to act as natural as possible. No one knows her very well, so don't be nervous," Alex advised the woman. He signaled to the 2 men standing in front of the door, guarding it, to open the door. Screech. The massive ivory door with the gold engravings opened and rays of light fell on Alex, highlighting her noble black outfit that had a gold hem. In his left hand was a metal staff which was the symbol of the king in Nevin. Alex did not wear the crown because he wanted to prove that he was worthy of being the king of Nevin first and then wear the crown. The throne room of the Nevin Palace evokes the history and splendor associated with the work of the monarch like no other place in the castle. All the walls of the interior were lined with basic relief decoration and had painted plaster and bricks decorating the upper part of the wall. Upon entering, The visitor was met with many images along the entrance, which were replete with images depicting the rich historical heritage and glory of Nevin. Looking straight ahead, one can see a long red carpet leading straight to the stairs like a mound leading to a platform on which to walk. There was a large-sized jewel chair that was decorated with all sorts of ornaments and jewels, the throne of Nevin, the chair that represents the position of authority and power. On both sides, there were seats for the royal court attendants. When the door opened, many people lined up to see the king enter. Alex looked at his smile and disgust appeared in his heart, and he clearly remembered how these bastards with their sweet words tricked him and gained his approval for doing all that dirty work behind his back when he was an idiot. Although everyone had smiles on their faces, they were stunned when they were summoned, as they couldn't believe that the idiot had the brains to do this and thought that someone was using him as their puppet. That was why everyone has appeared. If it was before, they would have turned a blind eye to this little pig who has lost weight. Furthermore, they were shocked to see the little fatty who had been skinned and had a mature aura, and they were afraid that this idiot might have become normal, but they were worried that he wouldn't last long. Alex smiled like an idiot, and as he walked on the carpet, he accidentally slipped and crashed into a noble. Thud. With a small thought, Alex fell on top of the man, taking 3 others with him. Alex tried to get up and shouted, "What is this? Some are playing push, push, without informing me. This is blatant cheating. Cheating, cheating." As Alex's shout echoes throughout the room, everyone bursts into laughter at the sight of his behavior. An idiot will always be an idiot. Even after losing weight, he still stutters like usual. What good is a body if you don't have a brain? As many commented, the nobles and guards surrounded Alex and lifted him up along with the others who gathered to help. The black-haired woman wearing a white dress gracefully walked over to the one who was sulking and pointing at the throne and said, "We have to get there, my lord, take my hand and follow me," she said. Alex nodded, and taking her hand, he was led to the throne. The nobles looked at the lady they had rarely seen. She is the 5th wife and the caretaker of this idiot. No one knew much about her. They didn't even know her name, and by scanning her, they could sense that she had no signs of mana. Alex touched the throne and thought to himself, thank goodness. Those bastards hadn't sold it. Who knows, maybe one day these greedy nobles will scrape off the gold that is engraved on the castle walls and doors and sell it. Alex sat on the throne and slid his finger over the armpit that was on it and patted his stomach and said, "Nanny, I'm hungry. Let's finish this quickly." The nobles didn't seem surprised by the idiot's words and thought that in just a few days of eating, this idiot would turn back into a piglet. Alex popped a mouthful of jerky into his mouth, and as he chewed it he said, "Let the show begin." Chapter 20, We'll play tag with our heads. The lady nodded upon hearing Alex's words and spoke loudly. To everyone present here, thank you for answering the call and taking your precious time to gather together on such short notice. The reason why all the nobles are summoned is that there has been a great problem, as a precious item has been stolen, and if the culprit is not found, the entire Nevin will be destroyed. No innocent will be spared if this matter is not resolved quickly. As soon as the lady spoke those words, the throne room fell silent. The nobles were stunned by the sudden revelation and did not know how to react. The nobles frowned and looked at each other warily. Suddenly, they had a bad feeling about this. When King Alex was banished, the Emperor of Kinley gave him a ring, but now the ring has gone missing. We have searched all over the palace and have been unable to find it. Therefore, we have gathered all of you together to ask for help in an investigation. The Emperor of Kinley had clearly warned that if the ring was lost, all of the king's subordinates would be killed, be they nobles or servants. What does that have to do with us? The nobles may be cunning, but upon hearing the name Kinley, they lost their cool. After all, what was Kinley? The strongest and largest empire was able to survive the passage of time and maintain its strength for centuries. Cough. Cough. A man in his 40s stepped forward and said, "Madam Caretaker, from your words, you are indirectly saying that one of the nobles has stolen it. Are you accusing us of this?" The man spoke with a smile, but he sneered inside, wanting to prove to them that even if one of the nobles had stolen it, what could they do? What evidence and authority did they have to condemn us? Alex understood the man's implications and looked at him and sneered inwardly. As expected of the cunning fox. The man who was the Prime Minister of Nevin, Count Bassi, "It's not that we doubt you, but we're helpless since we can't find him anywhere, so we have no choice but to look for him among the nobles," the lady spoke. The nobles knew that the lady was just a caretaker, a servant who had no real authority. Originally the administrative rights were to have gone to Catherine and the military rights to Christina, But they managed to trick the king and manipulate him into signing the document and prevented their wives from gaining power. So now seeing a maid come in here and speak loudly made their blood boil. After all, how can a dirty maid stand in front of the nobles and speak haughtily? The king may be stupid and an idiot, but still, he had royal blood in him, but a maid was standing by the throne and speaking arrogantly. No way. They have to show her where she belongs. Hey, what do you think of yourselves? Know your position, girl. Your place is under our feet, not over our heads, the nobles muttered and started cursing. Hey, what the hell is going on? Let's get this over with quickly. Guards quickly find the nobles and get this over with. I'm hungry, Alex ordered and stuffed some dried meat into her mouth, but her insides were boiling with anger. Haha, Alex rolled her eyes at the lady. The lady realized what she meant and whispered softly, it's the famous Marchioness Sten. Ah, here comes the scapegoat. Alex's eyes sparkled and a mischievous smile appeared on his face. So, are you going to comply or not? Alex asked playfully. No, we won't. Also, do you even have guards and staff to tie us up? Sten asked, raising his eyebrows. Count Basie frowned and thought that Sten had gotten too carried away by his arrogance and perhaps had also had a bit to drink before coming here and the situation was going astray. Still, Basie smiled as he saw the atmosphere as he could give him an idea of how the idiot would react. Alex stood up from his seat, slapped his thigh and shouted, which scared the nobles for a moment. What the hell? This man is not keeping the king's words, he is openly disobeying the king. This man wanted to rebel. He should be charged with treason, Alex shouted and spoke hastily, throwing out many accusations at once. The man was so absorbed in the moment that he didn't weigh his words and said, then what if I'm going to rebel? What are you going to do? No, in fact, what can an idiot like you do except eat and play? The man said and burst out laughing. I'm saying it openly. I'll rebel and commit treason openly. What can you do? Suddenly, Alex made a crying face and asked, why? Are all of you going to rebel too? Sniff. Sniff. Wow. Wow. These nobles are going to rebel. Please do something. Alex spoke while crying like a child and throwing a tantrum. Basie breathed a sigh of relief and for a moment thought that the king had returned to normal. Fortunately, it was just an illusion of his. Many nobles burst out laughing while others were speechless at what was happening inside. They knew something like this was going to happen and saw the childish behavior of the king. The lady tried to calm Alex down, but Alex with a sad voice pouted and asked, why are you all laughing? Are you going to rebel too, my king? It is not like that. One of the nobles tried to mediate, but Sten was too arrogant and said, yes, they will rebel too. We are going to play a game whose name is Rebel Against the King. The man smiled and said, are you going to play too, your majesty? Hearing his words, Alex nodded in satisfaction and smiled evilly. Since all of you have witnessed the words of this man who openly wanted to betray, I can now openly use my power. Alex's gaze turned sharp and the humor in his demeanor disappeared and he shouted in a cold and authoritative voice, execute him. As soon as Alex's voice resounded, a figure appeared in an instant and with a small thud, a headless body fell to the ground and blood spurted out. The nobles shuddered and took a step back in fear upon seeing the scene and looked at the scene in horror and disbelief. A lady wearing a black assassin's dress and with a mask covering her face appeared out of nowhere, cut off Sten's head and walked over his corpse until she reached the throne. In one hand she carried Sten's head and said, my lord, your loyal guard is paying respects with the head of the rebellion? Cute, big sister dressed in black, that was amazing, we'll play catch with that head later, Alex said and clapped his hands. As Alex's voice resounded throughout the room and her voice reached the nobles' ears, they suddenly felt a sense of crisis and felt that today was going to be a bloodbath. Their bodies trembled at the thought of the naive boy who knew he was dead and was determined to dig his grave. Chapter 21, Big Sister. Bring me his head. The entire atmosphere seemed to freeze for an instant. It took them some time to process what happened here. Just a moment ago, Marchioness Sten was verbally abusing the king, who was considered an idiot, and another moment, her head was cut off. The nobles thought that they were simply joking and toying with the king, who had the intelligence of a 5-year-old child. With a trembling voice, a noble shouted, which woke the others from their stupor. Do you know what sin you have committed? Bastard, do you know the repercussions you are going to suffer for your actions? The noble shouted at the top of his lungs. Alex rolled his eyes and searched for the man in his memories, and upon receiving the green signal from his brain, he shouted, Big sister, that one is threatening me. I am afraid of him. Alex said in a fearful voice, but his tone changed the next instant. "Big sister, bring me that bastard's head," Alex shouted, pointing his finger at the noble who was trying to threaten him. "No." The noblewoman screamed and was about to flee when the black-haired assassin standing beneath the throne disappeared from her spot, leaving a blurry image of her. Hiss. A heart-wrenching scream echoed throughout the room, terrifying those present. With a small thud, she rolled across the floor and, rolling across the floor, reached one of the men standing near the nobleman who was killed. The man shuddered and fell on his back as he felt himself losing strength in his legs after looking at the look of terror on the detached head. A deathly silence fell over the room again. Some nobles began to tremble in fear. They weren't afraid of the idiot but of the black-haired assassin lady. Only a few nobles have awakened, and only a handful of nobles with the rank of disciple were present in the throne room. Others may not feel it but they can feel an overwhelming pressure from the lady. Seeing her killing them like ants, they felt that the woman was sent by Kinley to take care of the matter, which scared them even more as the ring that was claimed to be stolen by one of the nobles was present out there. Only God knows what fate awaits them if what that girl said became true. One of the nobles looked at the pale faces of the others and thought of a plan and started running towards the door. He thought that if he could escape and reach his house, this insignificant king and that woman would not be able to touch a single strand of his hair. After all, the woman was alone while he had quite a few guards. The guards accompanied their masters and followed them. While many nobles were stupefied by the noble's escape and thought of doing the same if the man managed to escape, Alex looked at the scene with an amused expression. Many thought that the woman would disappear and then reappear with the head of the man who wanted to flee, but contrary to their expectations, a loud bang was heard. Bang! A silhouette of a man flew through the air and fell to the ground, his figure sliding against the red carpet, leaving behind a trail of blood flowing from the headless corpses. The nobleman's eyes widened in horror and he looked towards the entrance and saw a huge, burly man walking towards them. With one hand, he was dragging a battered and broken body, and with the other he held a giant axe that gave him the appearance of a grim reaper. The man threw the body aside and, reaching under the throne, knelt down and put down the huge axe. "Your Majesty, your loyal subordinate Max is at your service." Maximus. Who? The nobles began to murmur amongst themselves when they saw the man they had never heard of. While the king was in a coma, they made sure to take out the remaining loyal warriors and either break their spirits or imprison them by accusing them of false crimes. So where did this son of a bitch come from? Alex nodded and lay down on the throne. "Quickly finish this matter, I'm sleepy," Alex muttered and began to yawn. The noble's lips twitched uncontrollably at the sight of the idiot. How can anyone feel like sleeping after causing so much chaos? The white-robed lady clapped her hands and 10 guards came out and began to search for the nobles. The nobles wanted to grumble and complain, but seeing Max's fearful gaze calmed them down. Although Max is not an awakened being and cannot use mana, his physical strength is enough to match a squire-ranked warrior. Furthermore, with Riaya acting as Kinley's assassin, even if there is a master-rank warrior, he would have peed his pants. Alex investigated the background and learned that except for Mordek, there was only one master rank in the nobles, which is Count Hamilton, who is guarding the borders, and there are no strong ones among the remaining soldiers on the nobles' side at the moment, unless the nobles had played a hidden card. The guards who searched upon finding nothing moved on to the next man. As the guard approached a particular man, Alex's red eyes flashed and he smiled. The guard searched for the man who was in his 50s. As he searched his pocket, he felt something strange, and upon taking it out he saw a ring with royal regalia, and on it was engraved the name of King Alex. The guard shouted, "My lord!" The man who was found with the ring screamed in horror and his eyeball twitched. "Your Majesty, this is a trap. Someone has set me up. I am your most loyal servant. Did you forget that I am the Minister of Finance and that I always spent time with you and accompanied you?" Dorda, Nevin's Minister of Finance, screamed at the top of his lungs, trying to prove his innocence. "So it's you who always accompanies me so you can steal that royal insignia and use it for yourself?" Alex spoke as his lips curved upwards, projecting the smile of a devil. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, An Idiot Will Always Be an Idiot. Dorda was the main culprit behind Nevin's downfall. A greedy, lecherous asshole. If Alex wanted to clean up the infectious root, he had to take this man down at all costs. Although the Prime Minister, Count Basie, may be a sly, greedy fox who puts his profits before the kingdom, he is not a man with an inflated ego. Basie may be involved in raising taxes and profiting from the kingdom's treasury, but at least he has nothing to do with any illegal activities. What's more, Basie's efforts to convince the nobles to send reinforcements to right to aid them in their war against another kingdom made Catherine's plan work. Although he may do this for his safety, as in Wright's case, Nevin will go down with him and could face repercussions no matter how small. Slavery, illegal gambling, and selling kingdom information to others. There is no place where Dorda hasn't touched. When Alex was banished here, that old bastard stayed by Alex's side like a shadow and acted like a friendly neighborhood grandfather and played with Alex like a friend, cheated him and took all the money from the people of Nevin and even raised taxes. After Alex fell into coma, he came up with a reason why the castle didn't need so many manpower and cut all their salaries. Seeing Dorda trembling like a lamb that is going to be slaughtered, Alex smiled. After all, he is not going to kill Dorda today because she still has some use left. Alex made a sign to the lady in white and seeing Alex's look, the lady nodded. Minister of Finance, what is this? The lady asked. Dorda was no fool to argue and curse this maid and acted pitifully with tears falling from her knees. He knelt on the ground, knocked his head, and shouted, Your Majesty, please believe in me. This servant of yours has always been with you and considers you as his own grandson. So how can a person like me steal from his own home? Everyone has to believe in me. Please bring justice to this old man and give me some time to look for the real criminal. I promise to catch the bastard who had the guts to steal from your highness, Dorda said as he knocked his head on the ground. You'll see. Once I leave this place, I will destroy you, surround the entire castle, take you down, and treat you like a slave, and that girl as well. I will make sure that thousands of men play with you, Dorda muttered to himself as he seethed inwardly with rage. He vowed that the humiliation he suffered today would be returned to him tenfold. Alex watched the old man's arrogant performance and sneered to himself, this guy is no fool. Unlike that Sten, Alex looked at the nobles who trembled as they met Alex's gaze, which satisfied him. Alex succeeded in instilling fear in them. They now have two choices, either do nothing and give up everything they had accumulated or try to fight back. Blur. Alex stuffed himself with some jerky and spoke while chewing it. That black-haired elder sister had told me to find the culprit within 2 days, Grandpa Dorda. Since you say you are innocent, then I give you 2 days to find the culprit. Until that time, you are stripped of your position. If you cannot prove your innocence, you will be hanged on the gallows, Alex said. The nobles groaned and one of them, gathering courage, asked, Why are you doing this? We have already found the ring, why do you have to do this? Why? Alex rubbed his chin and put on an angelic, innocent smile and said, It's because it's fun to play kill. That big sister taught me how to play this and I'm enjoying it. I want to play kill more, Alex said with a big smile on his face. Everyone froze upon hearing those words and their jaws dropped. They wanted to scream and curse that idiot. The nobles tried to restrain themselves from rushing towards the king and slapping him. If it weren't for the black-haired woman who terrified them, they would have spared no effort to catch that bastard and give him a severe beating. Just because you thought it was fun, you killed anyone. Do you even know what death is? Do you even know what it means? They knew it was useless to try and reason with that pig head. Although his body had grown, his mind was worse than a child's. Even small children can have a sense of responsibility and conscience, but this idiot didn't have a shred of conscience. How can he feed someone even after seeing such a brutal scene? Treating killing like a game, what an imbecile. Basie, who always tried to observe his enemy first, failed. For the first time, he couldn't see through his king. Every time he gave a kill order, he would simply smile and clap as if he had seen a good show or received a new gift to play with. Except for the change in his face structure, everything else was the same about this pig before he fell into coma. The nobles looked at the black-haired lady and wanted to blame her, but they shuddered in fear when her chilling gaze appeared before their eyes. Alright, then let's set off and meet up in 2 days, Alex said as he stood up from his seat. The nobles breathed a sigh of relief. 2 days was more than enough to come up with a countermeasure to deal with the situation. But they shuddered when they heard the king's final words, after 2 days, I'm going to play another round of kill. Oh yeah, hooray, boy, Alex shouted excitedly thinking about playing it again and stepped onto the stairs leading to the throne, but he tripped and fell off the throne, his body bouncing off the stairs and falling to the ground with a loud noise and stars began to spin around his head. My lord. The lady shouted and ran towards Alex along with Max. An idiot would always be an idiot. The thought echoed in the nobles' minds as they watched Alex fall from the stairs. Chapter 23. How was the play? In a dimly lit room by a lit lantern, Riaya took a towel and soaked it in warm water. After the towel was soaked in water, she took it out, squeezed the water out of it, and patted Alex's forehead. Alex, who was busy looking through the documents, snapped out of his thoughts and looked at Riaya curiously and raised his eyebrows. "Riaya, what are you doing?" Alex asked. "My lord, I was just patting you so that if you feel pain in your head from hitting the ground, it will go away quickly," Riaya said in a worried tone. Alex chuckled and said, "Riaya, you know that I am strong enough and a simple fall won't hurt anything. Still, my lord, was it really necessary to act like this and fall off the throne?" Riaya said in a sad voice and looked at Alex with puppy-like eyes. "What if you hurt your head?" Riaya said and pouted, seeing her lord's indifferent look as if it was something insignificant. But for her, it was a big deal after all. Who knows, he may have turned back into an idiot after hitting his head. "Riaya, it was necessary. I didn't do it so that they would think I'm still a fool. I did it to give them an excuse for the next step," Alex said as he rubbed the small horn on his forehead. "Also, it doesn't matter if they think I'm a fool or not," Alex said and patted Riaya's head. "Thank you for all the hard work. The way you killed them must have struck fear into their hearts. Your act of killing was top-notch," Alex said with a pleased tone. "My lord, why did you kill only those two? Weren't there several nobles you wanted to kill?" Riaya asked with a confused tone. "I had planned to get rid of many in one go, but someone advised me not to, because things might get worse. Besides, I only killed those two. They have crossed the boundary of humanity and the remains will soon accompany the dead," Alex said as her voice turned cold and sharp. "Ah!" Riaya exclaimed and gave a look as if she understood something. Alex pulled Riaya onto her lap and stroked her hair, much to Riaya's surprise. Riaya was taken aback for a moment at Alex's sudden advances and wanted to get up, but upon feeling Alex's touch, a warm feeling spread through her body. "Did you calm down?" Alex cracked a smile, seeing which caused Riaya's heart to race. "Ba Baskida. Ba Baskida. Why is my heart beating so fast, and this isn't even the first time it's acting like this? Why do I feel like this?" Riaya thought, placing her hands over her heart. While Riaya was lost in her thoughts, Alex looked at Riaya's cute gesture with a satisfied expression and continued to caress her long, silky black hair that smelled like lavender. Seeing Riaya's face from so close, Alex fell into deep thought. If someone were to ask him did Alex love her? If it was anyone else, he would have said yes without hesitation. But Alex was clear that he hadn't fallen in love with her yet. What he felt now was nothing but infatuation. Moreover, he felt lost whenever he saw Riaya. Riaya was so beautiful and accompanied by her voluptuous body along with her curves, it would be strange for a man to not desire her body. As he accepted the fact that he was married to 5 beautiful women and thought about the memories of losing the one he loved the most, Alex accepted the fact and decided to take care of his wives out of responsibility. He didn't know if he could really fall in love with them or if they could fall in love with him, but he had promised to give his all for them to lead a fulfilling life. In the world of political gain, it is okay to have a loveless marriage as long as both partners' interests are aligned with each other and both can lead happy and fulfilling lives. But after spending time with Riaya, Alex can feel that he is slowly falling for her charm. He can feel the familiar sensation of having butterflies in his stomach and a flower sprouting in his heart that will grow and bloom to spread its lovely fragrance. The feeling of love is unique and mystical. Those who have it burn in its sweetness while those who don't have it thirst for it in their parched heart, Alex murmured as he was mesmerized by Riaya's seductive expression. Knock, knock. A loud knock on the door woke Riaya and Alex from their sweet dreams, and Riaya quickly got up from Alex's lap and stood beside the table with a red face full of embarrassment. Alex coughed and said, "Come in." Layla opened the door and seeing the strange atmosphere thought that maybe she had ruined their sweet moment. Will they get mad? Layla thought. After seeing Alex's brutal behavior, she changed her opinion of the innocent little lamb and turned him into a tiger masquerading as a sheep to catch its prey and pounce on it. "So what happened?" Alex asked with a stern look. "Your Majesty, a man in a cloak came with Sir Mordek. I asked about the man's identity, but Sir Mordek vouched for him," Layla said. "Then he came?" Alex nodded and said, "Okay, bring him in." A man wearing a cloak whose facial features were hidden walked beside Mordek and knelt on one leg and saluted Alex. "Stand." As neither of them stood up, Alex spoke with a smile. "Sir Mordek, How was the show? Mordek laughed bitterly upon hearing her words. When he learned that Rex was Alex, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He just wanted to find a hole to bury himself in while thinking about all the things that had been said about him. And Alex wasn't one to let the matter go, and he would always tease him by saying, "Uncle Mordek, you know I can't keep my pants on, can you help me?" He was starting to have nightmares of Alex teasing him in his dreams. Alex leaned back in his chair and said, "So, Count Basie, or should I call him Prime Minister of Nevin? So tell me, did you like the play? Please give me your honest opinions so I can improve for the next play." Chapter 24, Moving with a Plan. The man's lips twitched uncontrollably upon hearing Alex's words. As soon as Alex spoke, the man pulled down his cloak and his old face appeared with a small wrinkle. "Your Majesty, you sure joke a lot. Who am I to suggest and give my opinion on the play, and who am I to judge its greatness? It was wonderful anyway," Basie smiled. "This cunning fox," Alex muttered to himself. "So, how are things going on your end?" Alex asked, and his playful expressions disappeared. "Things are going as planned for now. At your call, I instigated the nobles to rebel, but it will be up to them how they proceed with this matter," Basie said. Alex slammed the table and thought for a moment and asked, "Count Basie, tell me, are you betraying your orders in arms for the sake of Nevin, or are you trying to break through my defense and find an opening to stab me in the back?" Alex spoke in a cold tone and looked at Basie with a piercing gaze that made him back off a little. Basie himself was a squire in rank, but when he saw Alex, he felt like he was a mouse in front of a lion that could devour him at any moment. "Your Majesty, I have pledged my loyalty to you. I swear it on my family's name," Basie said in a fearful tone. Seeing Alex look away, he wiped the sweat off his head. Alex had only exchanged letters with Basie. He was unsure of her loyalty and had already calculated a route to take if Basie betrayed him, but fortunately it didn't seem like he had to take that route. Furthermore, in the meeting room, he could feel that Basie was judging and watching his every action. "So, Basie, why did you betray your comrades? Don't you have something to do with the fall of Nevin and made it what it is today?" Alex asked with a solemn expression. Mordek looked at Basie's facial expression. Even he was wondering what had happened to him. Basie, along with that asshole finance minister, started the fall of the kingdom. Basie's expression didn't change, but he just sighed. "My lord, as you know, there is no such thing as absolute good or evil, and everything is relative. After you were banished here, I thought that Kinley had ulterior motives and that there was a possibility that her titles would be taken away from us. Because of that, I advise you to accumulate as much wealth as possible. I even took control of the documents to stop Queen from merging Nevin and Wright. But it was the worst mistake of my life," Basie said with a sad expression that Alex could tell from the look on his face that it was genuine. "After the Queen failed to merge it and took the soldiers, the situation got quite a bit worse. You know how the other nobles drowned in greed and did everything they could to reap the rewards. It's fine to be greedy to a certain extent, but they've crossed the line. They get rid of the soldiers and the army, raise taxes, and promote slavery. You want to make money? Fine, fine. But at the very least, the kingdom still needs to make money before you can hoard it. And don't talk about taxes. You're forcing a man who earns 5 copper coins to give 4 coins as tax. Isn't this a blatant injustice? They're immersed in the flowery dreams of becoming as rich as the nobles of higher-level kingdoms, but they don't even know the vastness of the sky. Even an Earl of Kinley earns more than all the wealth Nevin earns." Basie spoke, clenching his fist. "I tried to talk to the finance minister about it, but he wouldn't listen. Frustrated and abandoned, the only thing I can do is help the people in my area and get my land tax-free." Alex chuckled and said, "That's one of the reasons why your head is still intact instead of rolling around in the throne room." "Thank you for your kindness," Basie said. "When this is done, quickly return to the post. We have a lot of work to do," Alex said and added, "Okay, did you bring the things I asked you to?" Basie nodded and took out a stack of papers, and on them was written a photograph along with details of many people. Ria took the document and handed it to Alex. "With this, Plan A would be a lot easier," Alex muttered as she glanced at the documents. "Wait, can someone tell me what these Plans A and B are?" Mordek asked with a curious expression. "Uncle Mordek, you don't need to go into too much detail," Alex said, waving his hands and putting the papers aside. "Uncle Mordek, how many forces do we have?" Alex asked, and his expression became serious again. "Previously, we had around 100 in the castle, and after you infiltrated the prison and freed them, we had around 200, Mordek replied. How many do the nobles have at their disposal now? Alex asked. About 3 times, Bassi replied with a grim expression. Let's make it more than 3 times. The prison guard's ability is pretty good, while the castle guards were useless before, but now that they're being trained by Mordek, they're 1 in 4 as good as the other group. Uncle Mordek, take Max and reinforce the castle walls with soldiers and start protecting it right now. Start preparing for battle now, we're going to have a lot of uninvited guests tomorrow morning or late afternoon, Alex said curtly. Mordek and Bassi saluted and left. Morning. Alex had just woken up and was stretching his body when he heard a loud bang. With Alex's permission, the servant came running to Alex. The servant's face was pale and he was out of breath. Hey, what happened? Take a deep breath, Alex said as he saw the man panting heavily. The servant shook his head and said, Your Majesty, we're in trouble. Many people have surrounded the castle. Oh, so they finally arrived, Alex said, his red eyes shining with excitement. Chapter 25. A cruel fate will be waiting for you all. Outside the massive castle wall, a huge group of people armed with weapons had gathered. Seeing it, one would think that this was an occasion for a parade and celebration, as all the men present there were armed with weapons. The castle was located in a corner of the city and was isolated from the main city. The large gathering caught the interest of many people, and many stood to the side to find out what was happening. In the middle of the mass, a platform was made and an old man walked on it and shouted, Soldiers, can you see, beyond the massive wall lies an evil king. A king whose tyranny has reached no bounds and who dared to desecrate the sacred throne by killing people in the throne room. It was just yesterday, I saw his children playing and his wife arguing with him, but now she has become a widow and the shadow of the father over the children has been removed by the king. This is not a rebellion, but a fight for justice for Sten. Do not hesitate, I, Droga, along with all the good citizens of Nevin, will bring you justice. Everyone, raise your voices with me. We need the king to beg and apologize. We need the king to beg and apologize. Like wildfire, the words poured out of everyone's mouths and spread throughout the village surrounding the castles. The shouts began to gain momentum, and slowly the nobles' guards began to become frantic, and the entire ground shook with their protest. Mordek looked at the scene and sighed. These nobles can turn white into black and black into white. Mordek stood on top of the castle and shouted, Silence. His words echoed like thunder in their ears. Even amidst the enormous sound of protest, his voice, which had been reinforced by mana, cut off a portion of the shout. As their voices slowly grew quieter, Mordek asked, What is this? What the hell are you doing? Mr. Mordek, don't get in our way. Dorda spoke with a malicious smile. We are here to ask for an audience with the king. We want justice. Mordek scoffed at her words and said, You want to seek an audience with a king by gathering a large army in front of the castle. Who are you trying to fool? Do I look like a 5-year-old to you? Mordek said with a disgusted expression. Mr. Mordek, did you make a mistake? Another man stepped out of the crowd and spoke. The army we have gathered here is for our protection. You know there is a tigress inside. We don't want to be worthlessly killed before seeking justice on behalf of Sten and Garrison. The man spoke. What is your intention? Mordek asked in a stern voice. We just wanted to have an audience with the king. We will have a nice and friendly chat with him, Droda said with a smile and clapping his hands. From the crowd behind, a man wearing chains was brought forward and thrown before them. The man had disheveled hair and his body was stained with blood from cuts all over his body. Mordek frowned as he looked at the man. Although he wasn't quite sure, he remembered that the man was a good soldier, but he disappeared after coming into conflict with a noble's son. Mordek thought that he had escaped from being threatened, but seeing him with Droda, he was now sure that he was imprisoned and tortured. PFTTT. Mordek nearly tripped and lost his balance when he heard a sudden laugh behind him. Alex, dressed as a normal guard and covered his face with a fully covered helmet, he stood on the wall and watched the scene but couldn't hold back his laughter when he heard Mordek and their verbal exchange. This fool just fell into my hands, Alex muttered with a smile as he looked at the man. Alex was glad to see the man bound in chains because the man had a talent for leading and an average talent for swordplay along with average potential. Alex had yet to encounter many individuals with multiple talents. Even Raya is only good at fighting while Mordek has a talent for leading and no good talent for fighting. By the way, Alex has no talent at all. It was his hard work and perseverance that brought him to where he is. Mordek nodded at Alex's gesture. Mordek stood to the side and Raya walked to the wall covering her face with her veil and said, I'm sorry but my lord can't meet with you today. Hey, little girl, "Shut your mouth." A man appeared from the crowd and spoke bluntly. "You have no right to butt in here. Just go and do the chores around the house. Also, we don't need your permission to meet with him." Hearing their criticism, Ridaya's expression didn't change even a bit and she said, "My lord can't meet you guys because he's unconscious." "What?" everyone shouted at the same time. "What do you mean he's unconscious?" the people shouted loudly. Ridaya, hearing their question, replied, "As you saw, my lord fell off the throne and hit his head. He fainted from that moment on and didn't wake up until now." The entire crowd murmured amongst themselves while the nobles had bitter expressions. All their efforts were in vain, and if they had known, they would have started the march after he woke up. Ridaya asked them to disperse, but the nobles decided to press on and stay there. They didn't want an all-out war because it would be detrimental. If they had wanted to, they could easily break through the castle wall, but they decided to wait for that idiot to wake up. As Ridaya was about to turn around and leave, she heard a voice from the crowd. "Hey, lass. I heard that you're that idiot's wife." The man spoke with a big smile on his face. Ridaya stopped in her tracks, turned around and asked, "So? Why don't you just leave him and marry me? You can't do anything about that joke. I'll make sure to satisfy you in bed." The man smiled and licked his lips as he looked at Ridaya's curvaceous body. Crack. The entire crowd fell silent and then burst into laughter, and they couldn't hear the sound of something breaking. But Mordek, upon seeing the scene, took a step back, seeing the ground crumble beneath Alex's feet as he glared at the man with a fierce look. His red eyes glowed crimson, and the anger in him seemed to condense, surrounding his body with a crimson glow that scared Mordek to no end. A silent fire was boiling inside Alex, as if it were a volcano that was accumulating fury and was about to erupt. "Shit. This monster is going to get out of control," Mordek cursed as he looked at the man who had a cruel fate awaiting him. "Please give him some brains in his next life so he won't mess with a madman like him if he gets the next life. And not just him, these nobles too," Mordek said with a deep sigh. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.